Hold your panties in a bind there. Big Sills is here. Hit that like button. We are 29 days away from the NFL draft. Chance where teams get an opportunity to make themselves better. But dear Xander Kraus, dear Birds 365, are you listening to me, everyone? Did I hear John McMullen today on Birds 365? Go back and replay it. Did I hear John McMullen say he's picking the Washington Commanders, Redskins, to win the NFC East? Hang on here. Wait a minute. How come when Big Sill says it, it's blasphemy? John says it. Oh. I'm just trying to keep things a little, in context, as John would say. Hang on here. Where are we going here? McMullen's picking the Commanders. What do we got here? We got a mutiny going on. And there's Xander sitting there going, John's picking the Commanders. He tells Big Sills, fuck you. I'm like, wait a minute. Holy cow. How are you doing? There's two dudes on a national platform like JAKIB Sports. And we're both picking the Commanders, me and John. Yes, sir. You see, we're what people call trendsetters. That's what we do here. Xander will join us at 3:30. It's back. Battle Royale at 4:30. Mark Holmes versus Philly champion 500. The legendary John Morgan will join us at 5:30 Eastern. Let me tell you a little bit about John. John spends about $200 million in advertising every year. Most of it's in sports. NASCAR, UFC, college basketball. He's plugged in everywhere. You know how many people call him? Funny, Xander, when I sent him the number, Xander goes, now that's a billionaire. Still in Maui. So we'll talk to our great friend, John Morgan. That will be at 5:30 Eastern time. Great stuff for all of you guys. We appreciate it. Please hit the like button, just like my boy Kyle here. All super chats will immediately be put to the top. Since it looks like the Browns may be trading for Prescott. Yeah, that's all they need is trading for him. Dak Prescott. I heard those guys on Birds 3 say, the Cowboys, hey, Mark, if you're watching, the Cowboys will win 6 games this year. 6 games. Dak Prescott is not going to be a difference maker. You know why? You got to have a little bit more than CeeDee Lamb. Who else is on that team? They have no O-line. They have garbage running backs. Tight end's not bad. And they got a Schottenheimer calling plays, and it ain't Kyle. How you doing? Where are they going with that? I mean, give me a break here, man. Do me a favor, guys. Please hit the like button. We appreciate all coming aboard. I want to start the program off, though. I saw LeBron James do an interview today on the McAfee show. It's the best I've ever seen LeBron James in an environment where he was answering questions. There is no question, and I happen to agree with Xander. LeBron James has more questions that are approved by his people, more so than Joe Biden had when he was in the White House. If you're going to ask Joe Biden a question on an interview, you got to run that thing up the flagpole before that dude's going to mumble a comment out or a sentence out. There's no question. Same with LeBron. But I got to give it to Pat. Here's the difference. He took a shot at my friend Marcus Hayes from the Philadelphia Inquirer about something that happened in the locker room. I learned one thing about that McAfee show about LeBron James. That guy is the most scripted and calculated person I've ever seen in sports. I've never seen it. You know the difference between him and Patrick Mahomes and Steph Curry? Those guys do things because it's genuine. This guy does things because it's scripted. Now, get this. I see people in here taking shots. How you doing, Jeff the Bone? You see this guy here? He's got every right to feel that way about Marcus Hayes. What I do and what Marcus does and what anybody does who has any kind of reputation, it's for you to interpret what we say and where it lands. All I care is you watch. All you have to understand about Marcus is, all he cares is you read it and then formulate your own opinion. I'm not here to justify what he said, what he didn't say. I'm here to justify we do things, and for you guys, when I make a comment or a topic up, I pretty much know where it's going to land. If you interpret it a different way, like some of our conversations about your girlfriend, Jalen Hurts, you guys get your panties in a bind because you love the guy so much. Any criticism, you feel like you're criticizing somebody in your family. Got every right to feel that way. You got every right to feel that way. You do. But at the end of the day, it's how you interpret a story or how you listen and interpret what we say here. I don't have a problem with that. Criticism on the media, there's a place for it. If we can criticize athletes, you can criticize. I'm the fortunate one where I've been on both sides of the mic, in front of it and behind it. So I got a better perspective than most. I've been criticized. I've lost jobs. I've been on the other side of the mic, having been called a bust. I've had all that. I'm prepped for moments like that, especially today. You can't throw anything at me that I haven't had thrown at me before. Hey, Sills, with you and John picking Washington to win the NFC East, I get that we torched our defense, but didn't Howie and Vic, don't they get the equity? Absolutely. I think you're giving them too much equity. If you're on a sinking ship, and I'm not saying the Eagle defense is a sinking ship. I am not. I'm not saying that. But if you got a ship taking on water and you haven't replaced those guys, and just because you're giving the equity with Howie having drafted well, now I think John's way off by saying, well, to assume they're going to draft well now compared to what they've done the last 4 years, I think that's a stretch. I think they can be more prudent in the picks they have because you know why? They have multiple picks and they can do and be more judicial in how they're going to delegate those picks because they're winning. Winning is the ultimate tonic. So I think that's where they are. But let me finish this thing up here with LeBron. LeBron James has had his entire – look, I'm going to say this to you about LeBron. One thing about LeBron James, if you were going to make a case study at Villanova or Temple on how you conduct yourself as a professional athlete, where you've never been in trouble, you have been an ambassador to the sport, he is the number – and you come from rags to riches. They couldn't afford their apartment outside of Cleveland. I mean, they couldn't even pay their bills. Now he's a billionaire. LeBron James is the face of that. There is no doubt. LeBron James shows you how to be a great player, never ruin the brand. Now, when it comes to expanding the sport he plays in, he is maybe one of the worst superstar athletes in the history of any of the big four major sports in North America that didn't expand the fan base. There is nobody that has been more detrimental to the NBA than LeBron James. Less people are watching the sport with supposedly the best player in the sport. You know where Jordan is superior to LeBron? Jordan rolled in the P3s. In my profession, you know what that is? The outlier sports fan. More people watch the NBA with the Magic and Larry and Michael Jordan era than ever before. Ratings were over the top. It was must-see television. I can't remember the last time I sat down and watched a 48-minute basketball game. They're talking about taking the game and shortening it because of the attention span of the fans today. Nobody watches the NBA. LeBron brought nothing when it came to viewership to the sport. Kobe was more instrumental in bringing fans to the sport. So I heard him on the McAfee show, like I said. You have every right to criticize media people and how they cover. That's your God-given right. I have no problem with that. But what LeBron doesn't get is, hey, man, if you don't like how it landed, suck it up, just like Mr. International. RC3. And he's no different than you when he criticizes Marcus Hayes. He's just a fan in the seats reading a newspaper article. Got every right to do that. But you see, he thinks he's holier than thou and that his word matters more. Again, we saw that play out in November on how America thinks. Unfortunately, they don't think like LeBron. People want to make their own assessment on what they see and what they hear. So again, kudos to McAfee for getting him on. But don't think that for 1 second those questions were not scripted with his people like Maverick Carter and those guys. Those guys knew where they were going to go. LeBron wanted to go on the McAfee show, which is ESPN, so that he could take a shot at Stephen A. Smith. Hey, and for the record on Stephen A. Smith, I can't stand him as a radio guy. He's terrible. Every single radio job he's ever had, it's gone nowhere. Now, First Take and all the rest of the stuff that he does, one of the more important people that it's ever been in our profession. That's his niche. Radio's not it. He's not very good on the radio. His shows never last. I've never seen a guy given more opportunity in radio in my life than Stephen A. Smith, and those shows all bomb. But for First Take, that's his niche. You know, some people have that. You find that niche, you stay with it, and you expand it. It's funny listening and watching. I thought it was one of the most interesting things I've ever seen with LeBron. Bunch of F-bombs. I was kind of shocked with that, especially with a guy who polishes his reputation and his image. There were a ton of F-bombs by LeBron James. He's got every right to defend his kid, too. But guess what, man? Your kid plays on the Lakers, and if a media guy takes a shot at him, you got to take that dad thing and put it to the side. Your kid's more open. Get this. Your kid is more open for criticism today because of you. You know the worst thing ever happened to Bronny James? He's playing with his dad. He should have went and been on some other team. Let him carve out his own niche. Worst thing happened. He went to the Lakers. Could have went somewhere else. Interesting. That interview is going to get a lot of play, and people are going to have different opinions. That is so good. I love that when people can have one side of it and how you see it. To me, that's compelling. Is he fake? Okay, there's a debate. Have you ever seen him do that? No, that's a debate. Great. Making people think. Most important thing you can have. All right. We got a ton of topics. Do me a favor. Hit that like button. Thank you guys for coming aboard. I think the tush push is going to have some troubles this week with the competition committee. I don't think that thing's going to survive in how it's performed right now by the Eagles. This is basically attacking the Eagles. Nobody else runs that play to the success of the Philadelphia Eagles. Nobody. So this is basically attack on Philly. You watch. The play won't be banned, but there's going to be parameters around the play moving forward on people pushing from behind and advancing the football once the ball is snapped. That may be taken away. Watch. And by the way, my opinion, I think it's crying. If a guy snaps a football and you're in a pile and somebody from behind is pushing the ball carrier, I think that's a football play. I completely think that's a football play. I do not think it's not. So I think it's going to have some issues when it comes to how they're going to see that. And again, I mean, no question. I see that play having problems as we move forward. Do me a favor, guys. Please hit the like button. And again, I don't think it should be touched. Come up with a way to stop it. Eagles have come up with a way, in my opinion, where they have a play that nobody can stop. And the only people that are going to stop it is the league. I'm against that. Super Chats, go to the top. Do me a favor. Please hit the like button. All right. Every year, I pick 5 players. In the upcoming draft, we're 29 days away from the NFL draft. I pick 5 players. I have my own personal sandbox. And I think these are the 5 best players that are in this draft. That if you happen to land on any one of these players, I think you got yourself one of the top kids in the draft. And I think these 5 players, I think these kids are going to be stars in the league. Here are my 5 players. Number 1, I got Travis Hunter. I have known of Travis Hunter's story since he was in high school in Florida. He was earmarked to go to Florida State. He was going to Florida State. And there was a notion at one time before Mike Norvell got the job that Deion was going to get that FSU job. He didn't get that FSU job. He went to Jackson State. Well, in the process, Travis Hunter wanted to be with Deion. Deion told him this: you follow me, I'll make you into something that you're currently not, but I see what you could be. You can't have a better recruiting pitch than that. To have Primetime tell you, I'm going to make you the best player in the – he was probably the best player in the draft last year. Travis Hunter is as good as an athlete. At corner, I think he's better than Derek Stingley. I think he's better than Patrick Surtain as a talent. I think he's got to go to the right system, have the right coordinator, and have the right team. And unfortunately, look at, like I said to Xander yesterday, what's the problem with a guy like Travis Hunter? Well, Deion Sanders carved out the perfect Camelot for him at Jackson State and at Colorado. He's not going to get that in Cleveland or New York. Those places are shit piles. They make poor decisions. Here's the problem you have in New York. You got poor management. And in Cleveland, you have poor ownership. I think the ownership one is more detrimental. It's why between Jimmy Haslam and Lerner, the owners of the Browns, it's why they've sucked for 30 years. Hunter is the best player in the draft. I don't think anybody debates that. Number 2, I do think Abdul Carter is the second best player in the NFL draft. I personally think he's got a better chance of being a better football player than Micah Parsons, who was also a Penn State guy. I think he's I think he's more fluent. I think he's more aggressive. He's not quite a stout dude, but I think Abdul Carter's a ball player. I kind of compare him. When I look at him, I see Derek Thomas. And if you guys know who Derek Thomas is, that's who I see. I see that kind of ball player with that kind of skill set. Will he fulfill that and live up to being a Derek Thomas type player? I don't know. But I think he's got that skill set to be a Derek Thomas type ball player. And I think he's going to be better against the run than Micah Parsons. Mason Graham, DT, Michigan. I think is the third best ball player. He's 10 times the player Lazy Smith is. Better feet, better hands, more aggressive. One of the top players in the last 2 years in college football at the inside defensive tackle. If I was going to compare him to somebody, just to give you a reference point, I think he's right along the lines of Jonathan Allen coming out of Alabama. He reminds me of Jonathan Allen. Number 4, I got Jalen Walker, edge rusher, Georgia. The coaches, no wonder. The Eagles not only want to go after Georgia players. Am I right, guys? Help me out here. Did the Eagles not interview the defensive coordinator for Georgia prior to hiring Sean Desai? Didn't they have a conversation with him on becoming the defensive coordinator in Philadelphia? And he chose to stay, and then Kirby ended up giving him more money, and he's the highest paid D coordinator in college. Do you know he's the highest paid D coordinator? Kyle, do me a favor. Throw that guy's name up, because the Eagles interviewed him, and that was their prime target to be the D coordinator outside when Vic initially signed with Miami. The second guy on deck was the Georgia defensive coordinator. That's who they initially wanted after Vic took the job. It was this guy. They interviewed Schumann to be the head defensive coordinator in Philadelphia. That's the guy, Glenn Schumann. Thank you, Kyle. Count on you a lot for this program. Thank you, Pat. That's who they wanted. Do you think there's any coincidence that the draft the last couple of years defensively has just been littered with Georgia football players that are going in the top 3 rounds? He not only recruits them, they move on to the NFL, and now they're starring as ball players. Who in the right mind wouldn't? Can you imagine if that guy, I'll tell you this, if Vic Fangio ever calls it a career, that's the man I want to be the D coordinator taking over for Vic Fangio. Why would I want Glenn Schumann taking over for Vic Fangio? You know why? He's out across the country, scouring the country, looking for the best defensive prospects, and they all want to come to Georgia and play. He knows where they are, even if he doesn't get them. Kid goes LSU, he's with the Eagles, draft him. What an advantage he has. That guy had, get this, think about this. How many games have the Georgia Bulldogs lost in the last 5 years? Kyle, I'll lean to you. How many games has Georgia lost in the last 5 years? It can't be more than 5. There's a bunch of undefeated years in there. That guy knows talent. That guy develops talent. That guy gets talent to play. Glenn Schumann. If I am a team in the NFL right now, and I'm looking for a D coordinator, Glenn Schumann is the guy I want. You know why? He knows where all the top kids are in the draft. I mean, there's no coincidence. So you got another kid who's going to go in the top 7 picks. And this kid Walker, this edge rusher, that's fabulous. Okay? Here, real quick here. I just saw LeBron said that Marcus Hayes, he's totally correct, to speak about someone's brother across the line. I think that had more to do with the headline to get people to read the story. I read that story. 7 losses in 5 years. Not bad, Pat. Okay? Not bad. 7 losses in 5 years. I'll tell you this, man. During our time, I know this. I lost 1 game in 3 in the regular season. Yeah. You got every right to think what you want about Marcus Hayes. Okay? People are going to have different opinions on it. It's all right. Some are going to like it, some aren't. That's what I do. Some aren't going to like my takes. Some are. That's up to you to determine, not me. What do you think? I'm trying to make you like me? That's not my job. My job's not making you to like me. My job is to make you watch me. And if you happen to like the show, I love that. Because to me, that means you get it. I'm not alienating anybody. But what I will tell you is, I'm not here for you to like. I'm here for us to have a sports conversation. And we build up relationships because you're here every day. That's cool. Because you're the type of viewer I want. Now, Sills, I hate that. Sills, I like that. Sills, I hate that. Sills, it's called debate. It's called having an opinion. You think I want people? I will never have a show where people like what I say 100% of the time. I would never do that. That's a boring show. That's what you have in Philly right now. All the call screeners put on people that agree with the host. What a shitty show to do for 3 hours, listening to people kiss your ass all day. I mean, you can't have a more boring show, at least in my eyes. Georgia, 22 consecutive wins, most in SEC history. In that conference, amazing. Tyler Warren, tight end, Penn State. He's one of the top 5 players in the NFL draft. Those are my 5. Travis Hunter, Abdul Carter, Mason Graham, Jalen Walker, and Tyler Warren, Penn State. The tight end, he's not quite Brock Bowers, but I'll tell you something. He's got a lot of traits like Travis Kelce. He reminds me of Travis Kelce in a skill set. I don't know if we'll ever live up to it. I'm not suggesting. It's funny when you give somebody a comparison, you're saying, this guy's comparing this guy to Tom Brady. No, I'm comparing that he shows the characteristics that Brady has that made him great. Once again, you guys don't know the difference, or not you guys. Some of you guys don't know the difference. Giannini, the kid from Boise State, I think he's a really good college running back. I saw him in high-end competition in the playoffs. They shut him down. If you can't beat good teams when you have to up your level, who did Boise State play last year that was worth the shit? Think about this. That guy That guy played. Who did Boise State play that made you think that that guy was? Could you imagine having a guy like that dude from Boise State playing at LSU? He ain't getting those yards at LSU. Yeah, that's kind of what I agree too. Kyle, he's like a fake Rolex or a fake Gucci bag. I don't see it. I mean, LeGarrette Blount was a good ball player. He played at Oregon. They're saying that he's got a lot of similarities to that. I see Kittle in Warren Sills. Okay, that's a good one. Kittle like that. Aggressive, big. He's a 6'5" kid. By the way, this kid Warren from Penn State might have a better career than Abdul Carter, depending on what the. Can you imagine this? Think of this for a second here, Martin. If this guy Tyler Warren goes to Kansas City, I'm not saying he will. He'll go in the top 5. Maybe. But if that guy goes in like a position where Kansas City can get him, what an heir apparent to Travis Kelce. And if I were Andy Reid, I would do everything in my power to try to trade up and get that guy and put him on the Kansas City Chiefs. There's your heir apparent to Travis Kelce. And what is the one thing that Andy Reid has always had when he has been a head coach? Whether it be in Philly or in KC, he's always had exceptional tight ends. Never really thought much of the wide receiver position. Andy Reid is one of the only Hall of Fame coaches outside. What do Belichick? I want you guys to see something here. What does Belichick and Andy Reid have in common? They don't think much of the wideouts, and they think the mismatch is in the tight end position. You think there's any coincidences that the two greatest winners in our lifetime in the postseason, Andy Reid and Bill Belichick, don't believe much in wideouts, but they believe in the tight end? I mean, there's 9 Super Bowls between those two. 9 Super Bowl wins because you had Gronkowski. Aaron Hernandez was great. He was an all-pro. And you had Travis Kelce. You think there's any coincidence to that? Who's the greatest wide receiver that Andy Reid has ever had? BTO, right? That lasted a year. Deshaun Jackson was a fine ball player. Hall of Fame type guy. Did Deshaun Jackson have the skill set of A.J. Brown and Devontae? Not in your life. Not in your life. Guys, do me a favor. Please hit the like button. You tell me. You don't think there's any coincidence to that? Andy Reid doesn't believe in big-time wideouts. I don't either. I believe in big-time tight ends. Why? It's the biggest mismatch. Get this. This is why I think a little bit of the Eagles are fundamentally built wrong. Those wideouts and the perimeter had no bearing at all whatsoever in 23 and 24. But the running back changed the landscape of the offense. Since 2022, the same wideouts have been in the building. What changed in 24? You added a better running game. And the running game carried you. It wasn't the passing game. It was a different style of way of beating teams. Okay? Different style. But to me, again, what's the biggest mismatch? It's tight ends versus linebackers. Because the linebacking today is not as good as it's been in the past. Where are the best players lined up? Wide receiver and corner. You know why CeeDee Lamb is so good? He's going against lesser players at the safety position than he is on the corner. That's why he gets 1,000 targets, and he's got big numbers. He's a good slot receiver. He's going against lesser. Get this. AJ's going against the top corner, which is arguably the best athlete on the field every Sunday. The tight ends are going against probably the fourth best athlete on defense. Where's the mismatch? It's in the tight end versus safety. You know what was special with the Eagle defense? Cooper DeJean. It wasn't your corner play, albeit Q solidified and upgraded CB2 over Bradbury for sure. But it was DeJean in the middle, shrinking the zone. Running backs out of the backfield, tight ends. The guy can track. He knows how to have proper angles on tackling. I would make this point to you. I think Cooper DeJean's your best tackler on defense. He is your best tackling football player. His angles of pursuit, his closing speed, every single thing he does with exceptional closing speed. That's where your mismatch is. You've got a mismatch. You know why they're going to keep him in the slot? You've got a mismatch at the slot because of that kid. You put him out in the corner, he's lining up against Justin Jefferson, Ahmad St. Brown. Okay? That's going to be hit or miss. You got him in the slot, he's going to be lining up against tight ends. There's no mismatch in there. That's why I want him there. You ever check out Ty Robinson, Nevada DT? I saw that. I've been watching a little bit of him, Abe. Okay? I've been watching a little bit of him. I don't think the black shirts have been very good the last 4 years. I think they upgraded a little bit this past year. I think the defense looked a little better. But as a group, his impact in that, he's a big kid. I see him. But I don't know. You know, I mean, I would like to have had him more productive playing at Nebraska. Okay? Nebraska just hasn't been very good. They haven't been very good in 25 years. He's not a bad ball player. You know, it's a great program, great history, but the history's in the rearview mirror. So, again, the tight end position, get this. Tyler Warren is going to be valuable and more valuable than any wide receiver in the draft, including the kid from Arizona. Why? Because it's the biggest mismatch. Do you think there's any coincidence? By the way, Xander, anybody, who was the number one pass catcher in the postseason for the Eagles? You guys know? You guys know who the number one pass catcher was in the postseason for the Eagles? Guy who caught the most passes. Dallas Goedert. Dallas Goedert had the most catches. I mean, look at the two tight ends that were in the Super Bowl. When tight ends come off rookie contracts, half the price. The problem that you have, Kimbo, with tight ends is that they pay you a certain amount of money and they don't pay you what wide receivers make. Tell me this. Name me one wide receiver you would take in the last 20 years over Gronkowski. Tell me. Who you take over Gronk with his importance to an offense, both blocking and catching. Who would you take over Gronkowski that played wide out? I'm not taking Julio fucking Jones over Gronkowski. I'm not taking Kelsey. He's a better blocker. I must have missed how many playoff games Calvin Johnson won, when he was, and the impact he had in Detroit with Matthew Stafford throwing him the ball. Name me one. In the last 15 years, name me one wide receiver you would take over Gronk. I'm not taking nobody. Gronkowski was the most important and was the most unguardable player that Tom Brady ever played with, including Randy Moss. Including Randy. His physical mismatches were on display every game. You can have all the wideouts and A.J. Brown. Let me ask you something. Who are you taking in their prime? A.J. Brown or Rob Gronkowski? Who are you taking in their prime? I don't really think that's close. Who are you taking? I mean, A.J. Brown is nowhere near that guy. I mean, you got to remember something about Gronk. Gronk is a superior blocker to Kelsey. Superior. And he's amazing. A.J. Brown is a push with Gronk. What an idiotic comment. I did follow his NFL career, Julio Jones, OBJ. Julio Jones all day long. OBJ was known for one thing, a catch. After that, he was overrated. I mean, Gronk was spectacular. 4-time Super Bowl champion. I mean, Brady tells you all the time, I wouldn't have won that Super Bowl in Tampa if I didn't have Gronk. Wide receivers are overrated. I happen to agree with Andy Reid and Bill Belichick. I know you guys in Philly look at A.J. Brown and Devontae, and you think they're the gold standard. Well, I'll stick with the two best coaches in playoff history. They don't think much of receivers, do they? Name me one they won with. Outside of Mike Evans. Actually, Mike Evans was coached by Bruce Arians. Name me one wide receiver Andy Reid won a Super Bowl with that was a superstar player. Tyreek Hill, superstar? How's that career going down in Miami? How's that career working out in Miami down there? Tyreek Hill. Just checking. How's that career working? You don't think there's any coincidence that the two best coaches in playoff history never had a big-time wideout they won Super Bowls with? Okay, sure. They won it with tight ends. They didn't win it with wideouts. Multiple Super Bowl championships with tight ends. Multiple. Wideouts are overrated. I happen to agree. And you know what? I got the metric to prove it. Two greatest coaches of all time never believed in wideouts. There's no retort. That's just an opinion, Sells. No, that's results. I mean, I've got over 45 years of coaching that says differently than you. Okay? I haven't seen anybody. Really? You think A.J. Brown's a better player than Randy Moss? You're fucking high. You think A.J. Brown's better than Megatron? You're crazy. You're out of your tree. He's a really good ball player. No getting around it. He ain't Megatron. And he ain't Randy Moss. That is not a fact. Yeah, right. Okay, whatever. Okay, we'll see if he makes the Hall of Fame and what ballot he'll be in. Moss and Megatron are first ballots. We'll see. Nobody in their right mind thinks A.J. Brown's a first ballot Hall of Famer. Those guys were. Okay? Those guys were. We'll see. So those were my 5 guys that I picked for the Big Cell Sandbox. Okay? What's my beef? I don't have a beef with AJ. He's a great player. Remember something, son? You could be a great player and have better players than you. It's called the NFL. There's a bunch of great quarterbacks better than Hurts. That's just the NFL. And there's better quarterbacks than Jalen that have never won Super Bowls. Like Warren Moon, Dan Marino. Those guys are superior to him. It's okay. It's okay. It's called the NFL. Yeah, you get this. Everybody thinks Jalen's better than Dan Marino. Every right to think that. Stupid. But he does. Because that's his girlfriend. Who cares? I don't. You do. You brought it up. Hey, Dingbat, you brought it up. Okay. I will say this about Jalen Hurts. Okay? There's one thing that Jalen Hurts has done. Take a piece of paper out for this. There's one thing that he has done this year that I will concede to. Okay? Gabe, prove me wrong what? That he's better than... He'll never be better than Dan Marino or Warren Moon as a player. Ever. What's your point? Prove me wrong? He'll never prove that point. Ever. Those were players that transformed the position, changed the way the game was played. Okay? 5 of the greatest passers, there are 2 of them. Again, stupid conversations for stupid people. My point here with Jalen, he has done something on February 9th that affects the rest of the NFL. What is that? What has Jalen Hurts done and did on February 9th, the Super Bowl, that has an impact on the rest of the NFL? What's the number one thing he's done? Let's see how smart you are. What is the number one thing that Jalen Hurts has done that is going to impact 31 other teams? I like that, Steve. Running quarterback value is now up. No turnovers. Dual threat. I think you guys are not looking in the same area that I am, so I'm going to go there now. I'm going to name some guys. Okay. Jeff the Bone, that's the closest. Okay. I think the guy must have been dropped on his head. And then the nurse dropped him too. Hurts has done this. He's put these 5 football players on notice. Okay? Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Jared Goff, Dak Prescott, and Lamar Jackson. He's put them on notice. Son, if he hasn't elevated the urgency for those dudes to win a Super Bowl, I don't know who has. Patrick Mahomes was never going to push the needle and put the pressure on these other guys. You know why? It was after the first Super Bowl, it was a given. It was a given. Someone goes, why golf? He's the number 1 overall player selected, dude. And he just got $53 million. Any other reason? He's put these players on notice. Okay? Every single one of these guys have not won a Super Bowl. I think Jalen Hurts has put those guys on notice in the sense of urgency in Buffalo, Cincinnati, Detroit, Dallas, Baltimore. Why are you paying guys like that and you're not in a position to do every single thing you are? Do you know what that means, what I say? That they've put, and Jalen and the Eagles have put those quarterbacks on notice. Why? If you're Joe Burrow, do you want to stay in Cincinnati if they don't re-sign T. Higgins? Do you know Jalen Hurts expedited them paying Jamar Chase and T. Higgins? Because you know why? Joe Burrow's going to go, I want an organization like that puts the fundamental skill set around me and has a future. The Eagles have a future with 20 picks. They have a roster they're rebuilding on the fly who could win 12 games and still hanging around the rim where they could win it. If I'm Joe Burrow and you don't re-sign T. Higgins, I'm out. If you're Buffalo and you're Josh Allen and you continue to put B players around me, I don't want to stay in Buffalo. Bold prediction, Nick gets Coach of the Year if he wins 13 games. Never happened. Leon, never happened. He has, unfortunately, the element of success against him. They're going to pick an outlier coach like the guy in Jacksonville. That's not a way to pick it, but that's how they usually, the standard that they do it. Okay? Jared Goff probably has the best situation right now than any other quarterback that has the pressure to win a Super Bowl. Why? Because I think he's got Brad Holmes. And I think the Lions are doing the right thing, especially in the way they're drafting. Coordinator situation is going to be something to keep an eye on, losing both of them. Eagles have a great understanding of what happens when you lose coordinators. Is that going to be an issue in Detroit? You bet your ass it is. If it was an issue in Philly, why wouldn't it be an issue in Detroit? Of course it's going to be. Do you know what really helped? What really helped Washington? What helped the Washington Commanders, in your opinion? What do you think helped that football team this past year? You know what it was? They kept Cliff Kingsbury. They have Dan Quinn, and they had the majority of their coaches back in the building to be able to continue to develop the young players. That's why Washington's not taking a step back, because the entire coaching staff is intact. Look at what you have in Philly. For anybody to think that you're not the team and you're a lesser team than you were on February 9th, you're insane. Your coordinator on offense is gone, and you've lost 5 starters on your roster, especially on defense. You're out of your minds. You are out of your minds. Now, as I said a couple days ago, do I think the gap has closed to a point? Do you understand what I said yesterday when I said I'm picking Washington to win the East, but I'm still picking Philly to make the NFC title game? Why do you think I'm saying that? Why do you think I'm saying what I just said to you? That I'm picking the Commanders to win the East, but I am picking Philly to get to the NFC championship game. Do you have an idea why? Leon goes, I have no idea. Because I think your coaching and your talent is going to catch up later in the year, and you're going to be playing your best ball in December, and you're probably going to be a better football team than anybody in the NFC. But I think Washington, because they have a lesser schedule than you, how are you taking a step back when you're playing a tougher schedule? You're playing tougher teams. You got a tougher environment. You've lost 5 starters, 12 players that were instrumental in your championship run. Your path to the Super Bowl is harder. And it was made harder by Howie and dealing with the future of the team. He didn't do anything wrong. I'm not saying he did. You're looking at it A and thinking because if they played the same teams, the Eagles will be better than the Commanders. Yeah, that's true. But if my road has the least amount of resistance to get to where I need, I have a better opportunity percentage-wise. Common sense tells you that I'm going to have an easier road to get further than you. Use your brains. That's just using your brains. You're not playing the same schedule. It's like this. Well, a team from the Pac-12 or the Big 12 is undefeated. You're taking on a 10-3 SEC team. Who's better? The SEC team. You know why? They play tougher competition week in and week out. You're playing a first-place schedule. Washington's not. You're playing multiple playoff teams. Washington's not. Common sense. Use it. You cut loose a bunch of really good players. You're playing a tougher schedule, and yet Washington's going to make a step back. Okay. But not Philly. Okay. How do you come to that conclusion? Because you're giving them the benefit of the doubt, which is not a horrible take. We also have first place schedule. I agree with you. Leon, it's not that you're not going to be better by the end of the year. I'm saying that. I think your road's tougher. I don't think you're not going to be in the... Hey, dude, what happened last year? The first 2 rounds of the playoffs, you were not guaranteed home field advantage. Detroit got beat. You hosted the NFC Championship game. I think that happens potentially again. It played out last year like that, except that Washington didn't win the East. They didn't win 12 ball games. Okay? So again, do me a favor, guys. Please hit the like button. I'm not telling you anything here. You just got a tougher road. I want to finish this topic up here. Jalen Hurts has put these quarterbacks on notice. There is no doubt about it. And more so to the point, they've put those organizations on notice. If you're Buffalo, and in the next 2 years, if you're Josh Allen, and you're just hanging around the rim, and you're not in a Super Bowl, if I'm Josh, I want out. If I'm Joe Burrow, I completely, hey, Leon, everyone, how many people agree with me that the Eagles forced the Cincinnati Bengals to re-sign both T. Higgins and Jamar Chase at the same time because of the comment that Burrow made on how Philadelphia runs their shop? I completely think that was the number one point. How many times did he have conversations with Zach Taylor, private meetings after games about the way the team was going and what direction it was? They reported on this. Joe Burrow's not going to stay in Cincinnati if they don't continue to put talent around him. And I don't blame him. I wouldn't either. Send my ass to Green Bay. Send my ass to the Los Angeles Rams. I'll tell you what, if I was one of these quarterbacks, Lamar, let me ask you guys something here. If you're Lamar Jackson, if you're Joe Burrow, or you're Josh Allen, maybe even Dak, and you can't play in Philly because Jalen Hurts is there, is it the only other team you'd want to play right now for? Wouldn't that be the Rams? Why? They draft well. They have a great play-calling head coach, and they got a great GM. That's where I want to play. That would be Los Angeles. I mean, the Rams are the team. I think the Rams are more of a threat than Washington in the NFC to the Eagles. Why? Coaching, quarterback, and roster. I think the Rams have a better roster than Washington Commanders. I think they have a better roster. And they're only going to improve with the upcoming draft. I mean, the Rams are the ones. Washington, you got a young quarterback. How's he going to perform in his second year? I'll tell you this. Here, Cliff Kingsbury has coached Kyler Murray, Caleb Williams, Patrick Mahomes, and Jaden Daniels. If you guys believe so much in Jeff Stoutland and Vic Fangio, I believe in that OC in Washington too. He can identify talent. He knows what to do with talent, and he knows how to win with talent. Cliff Kingsbury, I said it to you, was the best hire a year ago of any team in the NFL. Him and Vic were the two best hires a year ago, offensively and defensively. Did you see rumor about Dak to the Browns? Get this. Yeah, because that's for Shador. So wait a minute. Let me ask you something, Philly. You're going to pay $60 million, and you're paying a $240 million guaranteed deal to Deshaun Watson. How are you pulling that off? Wow. The Browns just continue to amaze. I don't believe it's Andrew Berry. I think it's that shitty owner, Jimmy Haslam. That's just stupid. That's stupid. And correct me if I'm wrong. Doesn't Dak have a no trade? How are you sending? I mean, I thought Dak, I made a prediction. Hey, RC3, if you remember right, one of my bold predictions actually was my first one. I think the Browns are going to cut him. I think they're going to cut Deshaun. Whether they trade for him or not, I think they're cutting him. And they're going to absorb that contract because Haslam's an idiot. I mean, all the people in Cleveland hate Art Modell. Art Modell never ran the Browns this poorly. Never. Never ran the Browns were always good. I've never seen, well, I mean, they're worse than the Cowboys. They don't win regular season games. They've had 43 different starting quarterbacks since they moved back to Cleveland as an expansion team in the last 28 years. You know that? I think it's 94 they moved back with the expansion team. They've had 43 quarterbacks take snaps. You know how many quarterbacks have taken snaps in the last 28 years in Green Bay? 3. Try that out. 3. The Browns have had 43 quarterbacks take snaps since 94. And the Packers have had 3. If you're not stable at that position, 99, okay. 99, they've had 43 quarterbacks. Packers have had 3. How you doing? Hit the like button. You want to watch teams fall all over themselves? All the shit that Howie Roseman does now, he just shows he's running circles around people. He really is. I've come around on Howie. As a matter of fact, I'm going to do something here. I'm going to give you my top 10 general managers. Xander's going to join us at the bottom of the hour. Please hit the like button. John Morgan will join us at 5:30. Mark Holmes and Philly 500. The Battle Royale's back at 4:30. Do me a favor, please. Hit the like button. Here's my top GMs. I'll go from 10 up. John Schneider, Seattle. Seattle does a great job of recruiting, evaluating, signing, and winning. John Schneider is a Super Bowl general manager. I happen to know John very well. I think John Schneider, for me, is the 10th best. Now, this is a moving list here because depending on what team does each and every single year. So I got John Schneider at 10. Number 9, I like what the Buccaneers do with Jason Light. I like Jason Light a lot. Whether it's the coach. By the way, I think they hit a grand slam with Todd Bowles. I love Todd Bowles, the head coach. They play for him. He's got a Tony Dungy type demeanor. I'd love to play for him, man. Defensive mentality. They hire great assistant coaches. He gives the coaches the latitude. Listen what Todd Bowles' hires have been the last 2 years. Every single offensive coordinator, whether it's Canales or it's Liam Cohn, have gone on to be head football coaches as the OC of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You know why? Because they beat the doorknobs off the Eagles. I think that had a lot to do with it. There's only one team that has a winning record in the last 2 years against Philly. In my opinion, it's Tampa. And the coordinators, look at what they did to Baker Mayfield. I think that's got a lot to do with Todd. They make great hires. Todd runs the defense. He brings in coordinators like what's going on in Washington. Hey, by the way, I mean, you know how many people were saying that Vic Fangio ran Todd Bowles' defense in the Super Bowl? Every single media guy in the booth was saying, this looks like Todd Bowles' defense. Get this. They don't beat us when healthy. Hey, dude, welcome to the NFL. Welcome to the NFL. Number 8. I got John Lynch here. I know. The Trey Lance thing. I get it. He's built a hell of a roster. They've got great assistant coaches. I think the Steve Wilkes firing was bullshit. And I'm wondering if that was a scapegoat from what the Yorks wanted, and that was kind of a pseudo Brian Johnson type of thing. Okay? I mean, but I like John and what he does and how he evaluates talent. They land on great players. And John's got a great eye for it, I think. And plus, John's not a salary cap guy. They got a cap guy in the building. Number 7, I got Nick Caserio. These are my Big Sil's top 10 general managers. Nick Caserio's got 6 Super Bowl rings. He knew how to evaluate talent in the draft, pro personnel, and UDFAs. That's what makes him a great general. Nick Caserio is a great general manager when it comes to talent evaluation. Rookies of the year, quarterback-wise, defensive-wise, the head coach, and D'Amico Ryans, great hire. And this is off the heels of what they had with Deshaun Watson. They've absolutely risen from the ashes from all that shit. This guy's got 6 rings. There's no general manager in pro football right now that has more accomplishments than Nick Caserio. And he's doing it at another place. He first did it with Bill in New England, and now he's doing it in Houston. The difference between him and Howie, he doesn't handle cap. He knows cap, but he doesn't really handle the cap. When it comes to there's a capologist guy. I forget his name. He's kind of like a religious guy that handles the negotiations for the McNair family. And that kind of gets in the way. That's the only area that he's weak at is those negotiations on contracts. But Nick is one of the top guys when player evaluations and pro and college personnel. He's fantastic. Brian Gutekunst, Green Bay. Funny about the Packers, they don't have an owner. You got a board of directors all the way back to the Lombardi days and all the way back to the Curly Lambeau days. They've never really had an owner. So I would say that the way that they talent evaluate, they get the quarterback position better than any other team in pro football history, at least in recent history. In 36 years, only 3 quarterbacks will take 98% of the snaps. That's insane. Okay? 2 of them are Hall of Famers. 2 of them are champions. And Jordan Love looks like he's a player that's one of the top 10 quarterbacks in the NFL when he's healthy. His issue is kind of health. They got to get better players around him, especially on the offensive side. But I like the Green Bay GM. Number 5, Les Snead. Man, guy from the Rams, they are so good at contracts, roster building, drafting, free agents. The head coach is a guru at play calling. His resume is insane for being a guy who's not even 40 yet. This guy's been a head coach in the NFL and he's not 40. Sean McVay. He's there 8 years, won 4 division titles, a Super Bowl, and 2 NFC championships. And he's the play caller. Incredible. Number 3, Eric DeCosta, Baltimore. I don't know if I've ever seen a football team draft more Hall of Fame players. When you had Ozzie Newsome and now Eric DeCosta in my entire life. I mean, Ozzie's last gift to the Ravens, it was Lamar Jackson. That was his last gift. Ozzie drafted, and Eric DeCosta was a special assistant to Ozzie Newsome, and he's kind of taken that role. They drafted Ray Lewis. They drafted Ed Reed. They drafted Suggs. They drafted Lamar Jackson. I mean, they've drafted so many Hall of Fame. Bryant McKinney, not a Hall of Famer, but a great player. They have drafted so many great football players that are going on to the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Mark Andrews, the tight end. I mean, thanks, Jeff. Guys, do me a favor. Please hit that like button. Number 2, Brett Veach. Isn't it funny? Andy Reid brought him from Philly. So follow me here. He was a special teams guy in Philly, then a position coach, then a front office guy, and now he's the GM in KC. So he came up learning from Joe Banner, Howie Roseman, Andy Reid, and this is why he's won 3 Super Bowls, 6 conference championship rings, because he was tutored by really some great football people. I mean, just insane great. And I got Howie number 1. Yes, I'm shocked too. Here's my overall assessment of Roseman. His drafting the last 4 years has been something he has and was his biggest Achilles. I don't think he was a very good drafter. I think he was an okay drafter. Numerous, constant misses at corner. Constant misses at wideout. Couldn't get the linebacker position right to save his life. I mean, there were so many misses everywhere. His second stint, everything Jeffrey Lurie hoped he would be better at, he's excelled at. He got better. You know, the exile that he went through with the whole Chip Kelly thing was the best thing ever happened to him. Now he's probably the most coveted GM in the NFL. Why would he be the most coveted GM? Casario's got more rings. Brad's doing a nice job up in Detroit. DeCosta's in a winning situation in Baltimore. What makes Howie so coveted by other owners and 31 other owners? What would make him so coveted was that he don't waste money. Someone go, look at Bryce Huff. Chills, is that wasted money? That's just a miss. It's not wasted money. Why? Because he spent the money in the right place. You spend at edge, corner, wide out, O-line, and quarterback. If Howie Roseman had spent that money on a safety and he sucked, that's a bitching conversation. I'm never going to kill a general manager for spending money on a premium position that you have to have in the NFL to succeed. You can't. You should never rip a guy. Sills, they missed on a quarterback. Well, no shit. Stills, they missed on an edge. No shit. Stills, they missed on a linebacker. How much you pay him? $20 million. That sucks. That gamble on Zach Bond by Howie is a gamble. Because that's not a position in the NFL today, outside of Fred Warner, Roquan Smith, maybe even Patrick Queen, where you spend a ton of money on. There's just a handful of those guys. Is really Zach Bond one of those handful of guys? When I look at Zach Bond, do I see Fred Warner? I don't. I see a Fred Warner year. I don't see a Fred Warner player. He puts 2 years together. He's in that conversation. Remember, resume. His resume's limited. He's got 1 year of exceptional ball in 6 years. That's not a career. Now, there's circumstances and context to this. New Orleans sucked in evaluating him. Could that be true? Yes. That could be true. Okay? That could be true. Why would I pay him that 17 plus million? Well, you got Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter in front of him, too. Okay. That's another reason to pay him. Howie, his skill set is so set up by the owner. How do you want to construct these contracts? Jeffrey, do you really want to have sustained success year in and year out? He had to make the sales pitch the same way that Belichick had to make the sales pitch to Bob Kraft when he said, you know that contract that you gave Drew Bledsoe for $120 million? Well, I'm going with the 6th-round draft choice in Tom Brady. Then he had the balls to trade him inside the division to Buffalo. That's what he thought of Brady. Bob Kraft ate that $20 million signing bonus they gave Bledsoe. All right, I guess. Trusted him. Every year Howie continues to do what he does, there's more trust with the owner. I would be stunned if Howie would ever leave the Eagles. If he ever got in the open market, he'd be the most coveted general manager in all of sports. You know who I compare him to? He's Andrew Friedman of the Dodgers. Andrew Friedman, I had the pleasure of working with when I was in Tampa, and he ran the Rays. He's an unassuming guy. I bet many of you didn't even know who Andrew Friedman was. I mean, I have a picture that I post with me and him when I used to go to Rays games when I was doing morning drive. And I got a chance to sit in with him. This guy built a system in Tampa that's still in existence to this day with Stu Sternberg and the ownership group. Still in the same, they still do the Andrew Friedman. Andrew Friedman had to make dollar bills out of pennies. And they won, and they were better than the Yankees. Then he gets the open checkbook of the Dodgers. You want to know why the Dodgers? Phillies ain't beating the Dodgers. You know why? Their player development's better than you. Their player evaluation is better than you. Dave Dombrowski has been underwhelming, who I love, in Philly. Andrew Friedman never misses. He's the best GM in sports with Howie. Those two guys are the best at delegating money and managing the checkbook. I mean, you want to know why the Dodgers are great? It's not just because they sign all these great players. Their farm system's best. When Andrew Friedman was running the Rays, Durham had the best farm system. You know where he got that from? John Scherholst. He worked with John Scherholst in Atlanta. You know where the interchangeable pieces? The players on the diamond. You know who are never interchangeable? The pitchers. Glavine, Maddox, Smoltz. They were always the one consummate. You had Glavine, Maddox, and Smoltz, and Avery, I'll build a team around those guys and I'll win. That's what makes Howie and Andrew Friedman the best managers in all of sports. Sure, they signed Shohei Ohtani. Sure, you signed A.J. Brown. But they also hit on other guys that are in their farm systems. Absolutely sensational. When you're around Andrew Friedman, it's not about the price. It's about who you will become. Here's my list. 10 best. Howie 1, Beach 2, KC, DeCosta 3, Baltimore, Brad Holmes, Detroit 4, Les Snead 5, Rams, Brian Gutekunst, Green Bay 6, Nick Caserio 7, Houston, John Lynch 8, San Francisco, Jason Light, Tampa Bay Bucks 9. I do like Adam Peters, by the way. And John Schneider, Seattle. Those would be my top 10 guys. If you notice one thing about these top 10, has Seattle won a Super Bowl under Schneider? Yes. Have the Buccaneers won one under Jason Light? Lynch hasn't won. He's been to 2. Caserio has won 6. Gutekunst, I don't believe he was on that Rodgers. I don't believe he was there as the GM. I think it was someone else. Les Snead, Rams, Super Bowl GM. Brad Holmes, rebuilding Detroit, no win, Super Bowl. DeCosta worked with Ozzie, Super Bowl. Not, but he was an assistant. Veach, 3 Super Bowl wins. Howie, 2. All these guys hang around the room and win. What separates Roseman from these other guys, Howie's gotten better at the hardest one. No, Howie was great at the hardest one, managing the cap. Jerry Jones hasn't been able to do that in 30 years. He's been able to draft, but has he handled the cap? Howie came from the hardest place and got better at the easier of the two. Talent evaluating. That's what made him better. Dude, every one of these GMs outside of Howie, they have nothing to do with the cap. You think there's any coincidence that what's making him better is that he's hitting on his drafts the last 4 years? These other guys hit on drafts. But you know what they can't do? They can't keep the players. He got better after his exile. All right. I mean, 29 days until the NFL draft, which is insane here. God, we got a ton of stuff to hit on. Don't forget, Battle Royale's back at 4:30 with Philly 500 and Mark Holmes. The legendary John Morgan's going to join us at 5:30. I mean, how many times did you guys reference John with his take on the multifaceted quarterback? He loves Jalen Hurts too, by the way. That'll be at 5:30, but without further ado, great stuff this morning. Bunch of really good guests today too. On Birds 365, our friend Big C, Xander Krause. How you doing, bro?
What's up, Big Cells? How you doing, brother?
Oh, good, man. I mean, I think that's what's made Howie a better general manager over the last. It's that he elevated his evaluation on being a better talent evaluator, but yet he came from the tougher part on what a general manager's responsibilities are. Right. Every single one of those other GMs that I mentioned, those guys aren't involved in the cap to the extent that Howie is. I think that's what separates him right now. By the way, please, guys, hit the like button.
No, I think you're right. I mean, talent evaluation is just one part of it, but when you have that and you couple that with good contracts over and over again, you create more of a buffer for yourself, a little bit more of a gap between you and the nearest guy. So I'm with you. I put out my rankings on GMs, and I just kind of did this on a whim on 3/12 on my Twitter. So about 2 weeks ago, March 12th, and I put Howie 1. I put Veach 2, like you had. I put Brad Holmes 3, but on hindsight, I don't know if I would keep him 3. Number 4, I put DaCosta, and number 5, I put Les Snead.
We're
very
in
close.
the same top 5,
Yeah.
just different.
I would move Les Snead up to 3, keep DaCosta at 4, and put Brad Holmes on 5 if I redid it today.
Okay, I mean, I think those are your 5 best guys in the sport.
Yeah, I agree.
do.
And I had Gutekunst I didn't put him in there, but I had him in 6 too. So we had very similar top.
That's great that you put that out there like that. I like that. Guys, do me a favor, hit the like button here. Let me throw you something here. I picked 5 guys. Every year I pick 5 players that I think are can't miss guys. And I picked Travis Hunter, Abdul Carter, Mason Graham, DT Michigan.
Okay.
Jalen Walker, Edge, Georgia. And I got that kid Tyler Warren as my top 5 guys. Because I think that position, again, it's the biggest mismatch position in the NFL today. There's a reason. And Xander, I don't know if you agree or disagree, but I have a sample where what I'm saying is Andy Reid and Bill Belichick never believed in wideouts. They believed in tight ends.
What your breakdown of tight ends was phenomenal in the open. I'm with you 100% on Gronkowski over Kelsey. I mean, I want a guy that can block. If you want to fit, that's one thing I like about Goddard, because he even if he's not the best at it, he can do it. Kelsey can't. I mean, he guess he could do it. He can't really do it. I like Goddard for that reason, because he's super physical. I like that in a tight end. So I'm with you on that for sure.
Do you agree with me on Jalen Hurts has put organizations, along with Howie, on notice where if you're Joe Burrow, you're Josh Allen, you're Jared Goff, you're Dak Prescott, and you're Lamar Jackson, dude, if you're not, don't you agree that the Eagles and the way they do business forced the hand to do and take a knee on what Joe Burrow wanted by re-signing T. Higgins to that extension instead of just putting him on that, what was it? They picked up the they were going to drop the franchise tag on him, and still they turned around and gave him a 3-year contract, because I think that made Burrow happier, showing that they're at least going in the direction of what Philadelphia is doing with their 2 wide receivers, albeit it cost Cincinnati $100 million more because they were behind because of Mike Brown, not because of Duke Tobin, but because of the owner. I'm telling you, dude, if I'm Joe Burrow, you're not building my team around me like they're doing in Philly. I want out of Cincinnati.
Yeah, but he can't. You can't have that approach if you're Joe Burrow, because your owner's not breaded like that, bro. I mean, you got drafted.
Well, I don't want to say that.
But why'd you sign the contract? Is his name signed on the contract in Cincinnati or not?
Okay.
I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying if you have that expectation for the Cincinnati Bengals, you're not going to get that. And also, I think they made a stupid move. Why did they sign T. Higgins? Because they're trying to be like Philly?
Okay, well then, to your point, so you think I should continue to sign shitty contract after shitty contract, knowing that, or not a shitty contract, but do you think I should stay in a shitty situation just because I was drafted there?
It's a tough situation, because what was Joe going to do? Not sign the contract? I'm not criticizing him. I'm just saying, if he's got the expectations that they're going to operate like Philly when it comes to roster building, he's in another world. I mean, that's just not realistic. And by the way, they made the same mistake this summer or this offseason that they made 4 years ago in the draft. Jamar Chase is an unbelievable football player. He's the best wide receiver in football on my wide receiver big board. Offensive line will always be more important. They can't block.
They can't.
They passed on a generational tackle in that draft to draft Jamar Chase. I'm not saying Jamar's not a home run, but if you're Joe Burrow and you're as good as people say Joe Burrow is, the best quarterback, number one, a top guy, an elite guy, you don't really need Jamar Chase. But what you do need is you need Penei Sewell to block somebody. So again, they pay a receiver, this time T. Higgins on top of Jamar. They're going to have a shit defense, and they're probably not going to have a good offensive line. And they're probably not going to win that many football games.
Do you know how I read that then? There's no way in the world Duke Tobin doesn't know what you just said. To me, that sounds like Mike Brown. That sounds like Mike Brown parachuting in, wanting Jamar Chase because it's a fancier pick on draft night.
I agree.
When you're having all those draft parties and beer drinking events in Cincinnati. It looks better than drafting a Penei Sewell or a guy to help. What you really need is the backside of your quarterback being protected and having that left tackle isolated. Do you think there's any coincidence all the good teams in the NFL, if you don't have a great left tackle or center, you're fucking hosed. You're not going anywhere if you don't have that position solidified. And what happened in the Super Bowl? Their left tackle fell apart. They weren't good. They were good at the nose, but they at the center, but they weren't good in the old line. They ripped them a new one in that football game. The key right now in Kansas City is O-line. I guarantee you, they're probably somewhere, and they got rid of O-line guys.
Yeah, they got some issues there to rebuild that O-line in Kansas City.
I think, if Philadelphia is going to take a step back, and I don't know, again, whatever that means, a step, half a step, I don't know what that means. I'll tell you this. I think Kansas City's taking leaps backwards, okay, because of that O-line. You get rid of a guy who made first team. You get rid of a guy who made first team All-Pro. You send him to Chicago. Why?
Right. It feels like we say that every year and it doesn't happen, but it does kind of feel like this is the year that's going to happen with the Chiefs. It really does. And the one, we talk about offensive lines. It's such an easy way to look at teams that are going to compete immediately. You look at the Eagles, you look at the Lions, you look at the Bills, you look at even the Buccaneers who have a great offensive line right now. You look at the Broncos who rebuilt up their offensive line when Bo Nix came to town. I don't know what the rest of the NFL is missing so bad with offensive line. I get it; they're hard. They seem like they're hard to find for every other team except the Eagles. It feels like we pluck them off anywhere and they turn into the coach. Something. I know our coach is really unbelievable, but get offensive linemen. I don't give a shit how good T. Higgins is. They're not going to win a Super Bowl, and in fact, they probably won't even get back until they build that offensive line. And you brought up Duke Tobin. I don't think it's Duke Tobin at all. In fact, I think Duke Tobin's pretty impressive. Think about it. Howie's got 45 guys, from scouts to contract guys to draft guys. You name it. Howie's got every one of them. 40 of them. Most in the NFL. Top spending in the front office in the NFL on their actual front office people. Duke Tobin's got 4 guys.
I know.
I mean, he does pretty good considering what he's working with.
No. Here's the difference, though. In New England, they had the same they had 5 guys. But you know who those 5 guys were? Nick Caserio, Bill Belichick, Scott Pioli, and Mike Lombardi. These guys were guys that were like, you know what I'm saying? We're talking about the cream of the cream when it comes to talking about general managers and talent evaluating. You got Zach Taylor and then an owner who doesn't want to spend any dough. There's a whole different conversation on what you have when you're trying to isolate everybody. All right. We haven't brought this up, but I'm going to bring this up to you. Who fills the roles of Oren Burks, Fred Johnson, and Isaiah Rodgers? Who's filling those roles to the level? Let me show people.
Oh,
Fred,
can't play that game, Sileo.
What did you say the snaps were on Fred?
What do you have? 500 snaps?
500 snaps. All right. Played against who? Trey Hendrickson shut his ass down. Did a nice job on Kayvon Thibodeau too, didn't he?
Sileo, I want to tell you something, and you know this. You can't go into all these people that are gone and expect to be what you just said. Replace them with the same level. You just don't. This is part. Jimmy Johnson explained it perfectly. You have to draft well to continue to keep this up. And any dude who makes too much money that's not in your foundation, you let them walk regardless of how productive or good you thought they were. If they're not one of your guys, they're gone. Milton, Fred, Oren, goodbye. Now they have to draft, but I don't think you're going to sit here and expect everybody to be as good. Kendall Lamb, I think, is going to be a decent swing tackle. I don't know if he's going to be 500 snaps good. I don't know if he's going to be shut down Trey Hendrickson good, but him coached up by Jeff Stoutland, I like that player a little bit. You go to the cornerback spot, you asked Isaiah Rodgers. I think Adoree Jackson has a better chance to start than people are giving him credit for. I know I like Keely Ringo too, but until you prove it, you got to prove it. Adoree Jackson got signed a big-ass contract a couple of years ago. This is a guy that could play, had pedigree, and when he did play, he was good. Put him in Vic's system. By the way, an older aging player. Think Darius Slay started his career as a press cover guy. As he got older, adapted into the Fangio defense, and it elongated his career, I'd say, with Slay, and he played well last year. I could see Adoree Jackson filling in nicely, and then you look at Keely Ringo and Eli Ricks maybe to be that swing corner. And then who's the third one? Oren Burks. It's Trotter time. It's Trotter. It's got to be. It's got to be. Look, me and John talked about this on Birds 365 the other day. I don't even think they're going to pay Nakobe Dean regardless of what he does this year because they've already invested the $15 million in Zach Bond. Nakobe Dean could play like an all-pro this year. I don't think he will. He could play like a pro bowler. I don't think the Eagles are paying him. They just made their evaluation. They just showed you Zach Bond's who we want. They're going to keep Zach Bond, and they're not. What are they going to invest? Another $7 million? Another $10 million? No.
Because guess what it would be? It'd be 18 for one. It'd be another 13 for the other linebacker.
Exactly.
42 for your D tackle and 13 for your other. You think they're going to turn around and spend nearly $100 million on 4 guys on defense in the middle? Not happening.
You could say goodbye to AJ and Devontae if you think they're going to pay all the defense like that. Not going to happen. It's not going to happen. So, look, this is where, as good as we've been drafting the last 4 years, and we ran through it yesterday with Jimmy Johnson and his grading stuff and from that interview that you had earlier in the week, which was tremendous. The next 4 years, the next 2 years drafting are even more important. Because if you want to sustain this level of success, the only way to do it is to hit on draft picks and get production on rookie contracts.
Let me tell you this, though, and this is going to sound maybe crazy. I think it's going to be tougher to replace Oren Burks, Fred Johnson, Isaiah Rodgers than Slay and Nakobe. And I'm going to tell you why. And even, guess who else was a swing guard? Was Tyler Steen. Because these backups, the names, look at the names you said. Trotter. Who's the guy from Fred Johnson again you named?
Kendall Lamb.
Okay, let me go on. Kendall Lamb. Who's the guy for Isaiah?
He's been in the league for 10 years.
Okay, hold on here. Who's going in for Isaiah?
Well, I predicted maybe Adoree could win the job.
Who's taking over for Tyler in his role?
You're going to tell me. You're not going to get me. I'm sorry. No. The other ones you can get me on.
I'm talking about a group of players.
Yeah, I got you.
At the
offensive line, I don't worry about because of Stout. So I think specifically in a backup role, you're going to be good.
But I'm talking about the group of players that I just mentioned. The drop-off was minuscule. When they went in and had to play a role, the point on a team all the time, Xander, the problem that you have right now in trying to figure out what the Eagle defense is going to look like in 2025, you defined roles for every single player on that side of the ball. Everyone knew their role. Burks was the guy going to be the swing linebacker going in case of injury to Dean or spelling Burks. Whenever Isaiah came out, or wherever Slay came out, Isaiah knew he could go back and forth to play over on 2 and 1 because that drop-off wasn't going to be significant. Fred Johnson, if it was Lane or if it was, get this, playing right tackle and playing left tackle. You're throwing Fred around on both sides of the football. You really think you're going to find a guy who could play right tackle, putting his left leg back, going over, playing left tackle, putting your right leg back? You think you're finding that guy? What's the dude's name you just mentioned?
Kendall Lamb.
Kendall Lamb is going to do that and beat it. Now, look, you're right. You're going to give the latitude. My point
No,
is,
listen to Sills, though. I mean, does this dude have a net? This dude is talking about Fred Johnson. If you took out the names and didn't listen to the context, you'd have think Sileo was talking about a Hall of Famer.
I'm talking about the group.
No, here's what I think. I'm not saying you're wrong, especially about the group. But I think what's going to be harder to replace than any one player or group of players is going to be the magical feel of the season in terms of complementary football. Like what I mean by that is, why don't all-star teams always win, right? Why don't, when you get the best collection of talent, why don't they always win? Because sometimes the team doesn't work. They're not complementary. One guy didn't fit in the locker room. Something happened. Last year was the perfect version of complementary football with the defense, with the run game, even intra defense where the secondary helped the pass rush and the linebackers benefit. Everything worked. How are you going to, even if all the guys you just mentioned, you got better, how are you going to replicate the complementary aspect and the intangible aspect of the team that works so well? I think that is the hardest part, because that was such a special team last year. Even if you get better, that's no guarantee you're going to be able to replicate what you just did. And I think that is going to be the hardest thing this year, and that comes down to coaches.
I think what you just said there, that last word, coaches. That's one of the best coaching staffs, if not the best coaching staff in the NFL on the defensive side of the football, because of why. Bobby King showed dude, between King and Hurt and Vic, the secondary coach, these guys are all going to be coordinators again because of how good they developed and player developed. I mean, I can't believe they kept that whole group intact. I can't believe not one of them left to go to we can't. You can't make lateral moves. So you can't make lateral moves when you're under contract. So I get why they couldn't, but I'm shocked that one of those guys ended up being a defensive coordinator somewhere. And for the Eagles to get all those guys back, my goodness, man. And I agree. I think that is a major part of it. But Xander, when you have so many guys exited off, especially a side of the ball, and you had, by the way, all super chats will be read. If you guys want to keep filing them in there, please do it. We'll do it at the end of the segment. I'm not just talking about Fred Johnson. I'm not just talking about Orrin. I'm talking about, again, if football's the ultimate team sport, I'm talking about the group you lost. Okay, your drop-off to your second team, guys, could have started on probably 75% of the teams in the league.
Sure.
Okay? You had a starting second group on defense. You're telling me Mauro Jomo couldn't start on 65% of the teams last year?
Fred's a good one, too. He would have started.
He's going to go down to Jacksonville and start. Orrin's going to go to Cincinnati and start. Isaiah's going to go to, where'd he go to?
Minnesota.
He's going to start there. Those guys are all signed to start. That's how good your backups and roster was that you took a blowtorch to. How you doing? Hey, by the way, folks, are you ready for this? I have to pick the mic up for this. I almost fainted.
We pulled the Jimmy Johnson this offseason.
Yeah. You believe in what you're doing, which you should.
I'm good. I'm going to start using that because I know you won't criticize Jimmy.
Dickhead. Hey, listen. Hey, ready? Ladies and gentlemen, I would love for Xander Kraus to take a knee to Big Sills.
No.
Because wait. John McMullen this morning on Birds 365 has picked the Washington Commanders to win the NFC East. Holy shit. There he was. John McMullen is picking. They're a little bit better. I'm like, what the hell did I just hear?
Something about the way he said it compared to Sills that doesn't quite invoke the reaction that Sileo got. I wonder why that is, everybody. But Here's the funniest part about it is that both of you Goonies are going to be wrong again.
Mm-hmm.
And it's looking like the youngster out of Jenkintown will be right again on JAKIB Sports this year. We will see.
How about this? You have a harder schedule and lesser of a roster than Washington. How are you not taking a step backwards when you're saying Washington is?
Well, there's a good chance you do take a step backwards anytime you win 14 games. I mean, it's hard to do that again, even if you bring back everybody or you get more talented on the roster. So regression will probably exist, but I just want to we have to be a team that competes, and they're not going to fall below that threshold. So I'm not really worried about that. And the other thing I think this team has proven is they win the close games, they win in crunch time a lot. Like, look at the Bills. I mean, everybody's like, oh, well, our schedule's super hard next year. I get it, but they're all professionals, all right? None of them scare me more than the schedule does another year because you played the Panthers or whatever. Like, we beat the Bills. We beat the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. You don't think we can beat the Vikings? I mean, what are we worried about?
That defense? I don't know.
I'm not that worried about it. Yeah, it's a little bit of a harder schedule. Congratulations. You've made it. You're a best team in the NFL. You got to play good teams. That if that's going to stop you though from winning, then you weren't a championship football club in the first place.
Here, listen. It's funny, people. I said this yesterday to you, and I'm going to expand on it. I think Washington wins the East, but I think you're going to get better as the season goes on.
They're not winning the East.
And by December, I think you're going to host the NFC Championship game at home like you did a year ago. You weren't gonna host it. I think Washington's got a lesser road to get to where they need to go. They're not playing a tougher schedule. They're playing a weaker schedule. Shit, you got to play against the NFC North. They're playing Atlanta and New Orleans. Let's be real here.
All right, ready?
Okay?
How about this? Eagles versus the field. Okay, I'm going to propose a bet to you right here on the National Football.
Take the field easily.
NFC East.
Sound like my old
If the
lady.
Eagles win the NFC East.
Uh-huh.
Actually, let me go the other way first.
Oh.
If any of the other three teams, the Cowboys, the Commanders, or the Giants, if any of those teams win the East this year, and remember, the odds for that are great because there's been no repeat winners since 2004. If any of those teams win the East, I will wear the quarterback for their team's jersey on this show for a week.
Great. Get used to wearing Jaden Daniels.
If the Eagles win the East, you will hang a Jalen Hurts jersey on your wall for a year.
A legendary wall will have to put Hurts' name up there?
For a year.
There's only stars up there on that wall.
For a year. Take it or
God.
leave it.
Could I take that, putting a guy like that and putting a jersey like Hurts up there with those legendary names?
I will purchase the jersey.
Okay.
Woo! We're getting an entire season in 2026 of Jalen Hurts on Sileo's right over his shoulder. Woo!
No, you're not. Don't worry, folks.
Hey, James, we break the curse of the 20 years.
James, don't worry about it, mate. And Sue, shut up. I'm sick of you holding me accountable for my takes.
Everybody remember it, clip it, save it. Eagles versus the field. Give me the birds.
Yeah, what's really weird this morning, though, I was listening. I think Washington's got, funny. I go, the Commanders are winning the East. Xander's like, even the guy up the Jersey Shore said that he likes Washington. And this kid's over here going, you're full of shit, Sileo.
Man, you got to be kidding me. Again, it's something about the way you deliver the message, okay, that riles the people up here on JAKIB, all right?
I completely I get it here, but again, don't you see it though, Xander? You guys, it's a tougher road for you this year. The winning has
a
made it
tougher road.
tougher on you.
Yeah, it's a tougher road. There's no doubt about it. It's 100% a tougher road. I'm just not falling into the, I don't think the Eagles are going to be able to do it because it got tougher. Yes, it got tougher. So rise up. I watched them do it all year last year. I think they're going to be able to do it again. And I think, to be frank, I think it comes down to the quarterback, because I think his personality and the way he handles adversity has seeped through the entire team, where you don't get too low when lows come. You don't get too high when highs come. You continue to work every single day. And I think that's seeped through the team, and I think they're in a good position.
Emilio Acho Uche Kuchiku is going to have more.
I picked Dallas to get second, dickhead, over the Commanders. Use your ears, Shady, or don't comment at all.
Shady. Cowboys are going to lose 11 ball games this year.
It was in my bold prediction on yesterday's show, Dick. I mean, two of them were about what Shady commented.
Jalen, what is it? Jalen's going to be the MVP or some shit like that. I forgot, whatever it was. All right. On March 26th, this is going to fluctuate here because what I think the draft board is going to look like. Before we get to the Supers, and by the way, at the bottom of the hour, we will have the Battle Royale. I can't wait to kick the shit out of Mark Holmes' Cowboys.
You tell Mark, I think his team's going to beat out the Commanders this year.
I will tell him that. I will. By the way, you want to jump on and tell him? You tell him. Don't tell him yourself. I'm not going to be your – what do you think? I'm your delivery boy here? You tell him.
All right, bitch.
Here we go. Number 32, Big Sills take. DT at 32.
Yeah, I agree. I'm with you. I think it's back-to-back defensive linemen.
Number 64, tight end.
Ooh, okay.
Number 96, third, edge. That's where you get Sawyer.
Third round?
Yeah.
You think he's going to hang that long?
Yep. You know what? I heard that Carl Dunbar said his agent told him not to go through the drills, and he was jacking around at the combines. He wasn't taking it serious. It was like really a poor showing. He didn't run cone drills. He didn't do the bench. He barely participated in his own pro day.
Yeah, you don't like that.
I don't either, man.
Yeah, that's weird. Anybody who's
been. I remember, you know who had that same dynamic? Gronkowski. Remember what Belichick said? Gronk fell asleep at his meeting.
Let's pump the brakes on Jack Sawyer being Gronkowski, but I hear you. It shouldn't rule him out.
That's right. It shouldn't rule him out. But remember what Myles Garrett said when he was at A&M? Yeah, football's not a number one priority to me. Well, you could have fooled me, guy. I mean, you're averaging 14 sacks a year for the last 6 years. You got to have some priority going on there, man. I'll tell you that. Fourth round, number 134. I got a line here. They may need to get a swing because what's the guy's name again? Commander who? Who's the guy that you're talking about is the swing tackle? What's his name? Commander, what's his name?
Kendall Lamb, Sileo. Wait a second. You should respect.
I'm not taking a guy named after a Kardashian.
You should respect his journey as an undrafted guy who's been in the league for 10 years. All right?
Kendall Jackson is going to be the swing tackle in Philly. All right. Number 161.
Why you got to pick on like the 58th man on the roster? I mean, what did he do to you?
Hey, I'll tell you this. The bottom part of the roster for the Eagles this past year was some of the most important players.
And they were excellent.
They were excellent. I'll tell you this, but you not agree? I never thought about this until right now. The Philadelphia Eagles may have had the best bottom 10% of a roster in the entire NFL because every single one of those players that stepped in, and man, when Tyler Steen walked in and had to play guard for Landon, I didn't notice anything. When Orrin stepped in, I didn't notice anything. When Isaiah stepped in, dude, how many times did we watch that all last year? It was really remarkable. Not only were your frontline, and you know what's crazy? Your frontline players were really good. Are they guys that are like generational players that slay a generational player No, he's awful good, though. Okay? He's awful good. Is the Kobe Dean going to be one of the greatest linebackers in the history of the Philadelphia Eagle history? No. But he was pretty good. Okay? Nolan Smith, your boy.
Fear mongering, Sileo.
The next Reggie White, according to you.
Are you fear mongering?
What?
Are you fear mongering?
No, absolutely not. What I'm doing is
realistic
conversations like John McMullen today talking about your roster. It is really kind of crazy. I really do believe it's my delivery here. I don't know what it is, man.
It's always been about the Sileo delivery. There's something about the Sileo delivery that drives people nuts.
Ever. Okay. 165, I think another edge. How many of those 5 and 5th round picks do you think they use? Or do you think they package them up and move up and get 3s and 4s or 2s and 3s?
I think they're moving all over the place. I'm going to be live the whole draft because I already know that remember the one year, it was like a couple years ago, there was like 15 trades in day 3.
Last year he did that.
It's just so hard to cover. So I'm just going to go live the whole draft. I'll be live on the channel the entire draft. All right.
Listen to this. Well, last year, Houston's a 5, Cleveland's a 5, Washington's a 5. His own pick is 168. So he made a bunch of moves with those 5th round picks a year ago. All right. I wrote these guys down here. By the way, last thing before we get to the Supers. Yes, sir, baby. Washington Commanders. I got a bunch of people now following suit here. I'm like the Pied Piper here on JAKIB. Are going to win the NFC East. Oh, hey.
You picked the team that lost the NFC Championship game to win their division next year.
Yeah, but that team that's going to line up against the Washington Commanders is gone. Oh, bye-bye. This Washington added players.
They added a bunch of
you
skeletons.
Through a trap door.
Dude, stop. They added a bunch of mummies on their way out. Are you kidding me? They're the oldest roster in the freaking league after their
And you let the youngest players in the league leave your roster.
They replaced
27-year-old guys.
They replaced Jonathan Allen with Kinlaw. They get one 33-year-old tackle, and people act like they're about to set the league on fire. Washington is going to regress.
And
as
you
predicted
hire Kendall Jackson.
Boy.
All right here. Hey, by the way, who do you like on this list to be in that 2 spot? We're going to take Tyler Warren off. I got my top 10 tight ends. And I'm going to put a number when they're saying the 26th best player in the draft is this Colston Loveland from Michigan. Do you think that they would take him at 32?
Not personally my favorite player in the draft. I think he's a good player, but I think
his hands are suspect.
I just would rather go with a defensive lineman there. If you're going to go tight end in round 1, it's Tyler Warren or bust. I mean, you don't draft the second tight end in round 1. This isn't. I wouldn't do that. At least that's me. Now maybe they would, but I have a hard time. Like Bob brings up a good name. What's more valuable, Colston Loveland at 32 or Gunnar Helm in the 4th? I don't see them going to a tight end in round 1 if unless it's Tyler Warren, they would move up for him. But I don't see that happening either. And I'm not the biggest Gunnar Helm fan either. I like that Elijah Arroyo,
the Miami kid.
Guy. I like him a little bit better, but
he's ranked as the 57th best player in the draft.
Arroyo is?
Yeah.
Oh, that's pretty high.
But it's still going to put him in the 2nd round.
Yeah. Well, he'll definitely be 2nd round, but I don't know. I'd almost rather go 2 defensive linemen. Give me a DT and an edge. Give me a DT and an edge. You got to get bodies in that room, man. You got to get good guys that can be coached up. You got to give Clint Hurts some guys to work with in that room, and I think you should use those top two picks on that side.
You want me to get Arroyo on?
Do you have a relationship with him at all? Or I know you have the connection to him, but do you know him at all? Look at Sileo. I know you have the connection. You've had the head coach of the team on this program several times. I know you're connected to the guy.
I could get him on.
The agent's going to be like, "Hey, be careful. That guy will bait you into saying something."
Yeah.
Sileo,
Well,
all of a sudden, wait, Arroyo comes on with Sileo. All of a sudden,
no,
he's
he's a Miami guy. I wouldn't hose him. If he was a Gator guy,
all
I
of a sudden
would.
he's a 6th-round pick, Sileo. What'd you do? What'd you say to this guy, Sileo? He dropped him down the draft boards.
I got another guy too, and I talked to her last night. Joy Taylor, right?
Yeah.
That's her brother, Mason Taylor. The tight end from LSU is her brother.
Oh, is it?
Or no, her nephew. Right. That's Jason Taylor's son. That's Jason. That's Jason
for bro.
Hey, that's Jason. That's Jason Taylor's son.
He's gonna be getting an earful when he gets in the league. Okay.
Mason Taylor. Yeah, that's
imagine having Emmanuel Acho criticizing your every move once you get to the league after that came out. Oh, you hate to see it. We'll drop a prayer for Mason Taylor.
Yeah, that's Jason Taylor, by the way, Hall of Famer.
Yeah, I know that. I knew there was.
Yeah,
I didn't know Twitter was related to them though.
Yeah, that's Joy's nephew. And by the way, Jason Taylor's the D-line coach at University of Miami. So, So I talked to him. He goes, "What do you think?" I go, "Your D tackles stink. They got to get better. You haven't had a D tackle go in the first round in how many years? 30? Come on, man. Got to be better. You see that thing with Cam Ward going number 1? Miami, in my time, get this. Miami had 4 first-round draft choices at quarterback from 1983 until 1989. I played with the majority of those kids. Right. And you know what? Miami in the last 30 years hasn't had a first-round quarterback. What do you think's been the problem at UM? DT and quarterback.
Right.
That's the problem with the program.
I like Cam Ward though. I'm like a classic NFL team. The closer this draft gets, the more I like the quarterbacks. And I like Shedeur and I like Cam. And I told you I could see it with Jackson Dart, maybe if he gets the perfect situation. But listen, I don't know how much of this Dak Prescott rumors are true, but I'll tell you one thing as an Eagle fan. I'll be 100% honest with all you guys. I don't want to see Shedeur Sanders in Dallas. I don't. You might think, who cares? We're going to beat the shit. Okay, that's fine. I would prefer Shedeur Sanders to go to one of the 30 other teams that have a draft pick on March or April 25th, 26th, whatever the draft is. I don't want him to go to Dallas. I don't like it.
He'll be Tony Romo. What do you care about Tony Romo?
No, I don't agree.
They're not going to win until the owner's not making decisions anymore.
Yeah, but if you get Deion's kid in there and then you get Deion at coach, you might start to see a semblance of decision making that's a little bit better.
Hey, you want to see oil and water? Deion Sanders head coach, Jerry Jones owner. That would be must-see TV.
Well, Curtis, I don't disagree that Prescott's a lot better than Eagles fans give him credit for. That's why I have him getting second in the East this year, because I like Prescott. I think Prescott is a great quarterback in the regular season. He stinks in the playoffs. That's the truth. He doesn't win games when they matter. But if you want to win 12 games, he's a great quarterback to have. He throws the ball effectively. He's very accurate, great in the pocket, moves the ball, gets everybody involved. When the playoffs come, you got to change his diaper. But other than that, he's a good quarterback.
If I were him, Dak, I'd want to go to L.A. after Stafford.
Good call.
I'd want to go there
this year. LA's going to be good this year.
Dude, they frighten me more for the Eagles than Washington does, because they draft so well. They've got a quarterback. They're good. I mean, hey, Russell Wilson to the Giants. I heard you talking. Holy shit, man. Good for you guys. Making it sound like, hey, 4 years ago, that's a good pick. Now, the only thing that's good about that move is that I get to see Sierra in New York. That's it. I mean,
Sierra.
Oh, I do. Holy shit, man.
No, I like Russell Wilson, but doesn't have much left in the tank. They're not doing much there. Look, give him credit. The guy's collecting a check as he journeys around the NFL for a couple of more years.
What, they give him $25 million?
I don't know what they gave him guaranteed.
1 year, $25, $26 million for that? He was dog shit in
I don't
Pittsburgh.
know. I don't know what the hell.
He couldn't move the sticks in Pittsburgh.
I think they're trying to play mental games with the Eagles. Remember how it's been reported many times how much the Eagles loved Russell Wilson when he came into the draft. I think Joe Schoen is trying to do anything to get in the Eagles' head after he has become a laughingstock of the entire NFL world. So much so that Hard Knocks offseason will not exist this year because he got embarrassed so bad.
They embarrassed that GM. So let me last thing here for you. Why do you really think, I hear you and John talking about this all the time, you really think it was right for the New York Giants to move off of Saquon Barkley? Before you answer, let me tell you why I think it was a bad move. If you're going to bring in a guy like Russell Wilson, or you're going to bring in a guy like Jameis Winston, or you're going to bring in maybe not the greatest running quarterback of all time, surely you want to have some way of moving the sticks to help that quarterback out. What's your alternative now? I mean, if you don't have a running game and you can't stop the run, you can win with marginal quarterbacks. Look at Brock Purdy. He's above marginal. He's good. But it shows you, Xander, if you can do that, you can win ball games. If you don't have, you can have a quarterback throw for how many yards? 5,000 yards last year in Cincinnati, and it didn't mean dick. What was the biggest problem that they had a year ago? They moved off of Joe Mixon and just assumed that they were going to have a run game. They had no run game, couldn't defend the pass protection, and they couldn't defend the run. Three things the Eagles are exceptional at: defending the run, running the ball, and pass protection. I mean, dude.
All right, so here's my take on it, because I agree that it sounded like I probably said that. I agree that that's what I said. I don't say that in that they shouldn't have signed Saquon. I meant that in that not signing Saquon is not what made the Giants suck. Okay, their philosophies as an organization, their failure to build an offensive line, their failure to do the things that make you a successful football team year in and year out are what they should be focused on. And you look at, you brought up the Eagles, signed Saquon, look what he does. The Ravens signed Derrick Henry, look what he does. The Eagles had the best offensive line in football. The Eagles, Saquon Barkley was the last piece. Even in Baltimore. Eric DeCosta built an amazing roster there.
By the way, Baltimore has the third best O-line.
That's what I mean. And their roster is incredible. They had 6 Pro Bowlers last year. So they got Derrick Henry. Yeah, they didn't need to do anything. They didn't need to get an offensive line. If you're New York and you have the worst offensive line, you just paid Daniel Jones $45 million. Like, signing Saquon, probably wouldn't have done much other than made you a permanent middle-of-the-pack team, so you never get great draft picks, and you never win. So from that perspective, I don't think that was the nail in the coffin for the Giants. It was another bad decision for them, but I think all the other things before that and after that are what made them bad. I mean,
coaching decisions, the general manager hiring,
GM, coaches. I don't know. I know you have.
Do you want that guy? Do you want that guy, Joe Schoen, picking your next quarterback?
No. If I'm John Mara, I might say you're not allowed to take a quarterback at 3. Yeah. Get Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter.
Right. I'm not allowing that guy to pick that dude. All right, Tanner, let's get to these.
They should have fired. They should have
fired him. Right.
They should have hired Dion, and they should have let him run reins. But I think I don't want to accuse Mara of anything, but like, dude, it's 2025. Like, I think you got to come up and you got to come to where we are as a society and as an NFL. Okay, you got to get over some of the things that you think you need to do. You got to accept where we are, and you have to move forward because here's the thing about the Giants that pisses me off. They have one of the best brands in football. They have one of the best cities on planet Earth. People who don't live in this country come to this country to see New York. And you're fielding a trash team for the better part of a decade? How? The Panthers, I get it. How? You're New York. You can't do anything?
It's terrible. Hey.
Terrible.
How about this scenario for them? You hire Belichick as the GM and you hire Dion as the coach.
That would be a good decision.
Bring Bill up and have Bill fuel that personnel department like he had up in New England. And then what you don't have to worry about is him being that old. You could be a general manager and be that role. You don't have to be the head coach.
Right.
You bring in a young Turk like Dion, then you hire his kid. And what you do, remember something too, Brady is tight with this kid Shador. He's constantly coaching him.
Yeah.
You know, he's in his ear.
What do you think Dion can do better than anyone? Slugger, I don't disagree that Dion, I mean, maybe it's a little overhyped, but I think what you're sleeping on is Dion in New York City. That is a match made in heaven.
Wait a minute, Slagger. I'll tell you what Dion can do better than everyone. Hey, kid, you're not doing it right. This is how you have to do it to be successful in this league. Okay? I don't give a shit who you think you are as a coach. When you're Deion Sanders and you're looking at a guy in the face and you're going, you're not doing this right. The culture in the building's wrong. Isn't it funny? When Deion went to San Francisco, they won the Super Bowl. When Dallas got him, they stopped San Francisco from winning a Super Bowl because Deion was there. Deion's a difference maker.
I agree.
Okay? And
another guy, in my opinion, there's more that meets the eye. All right. It's hard to quantify what he can do. But
well, it's what you said yesterday, Xander. If 2 phone calls are coming in for me and one guy's calling me, who am I going to pick up, Joe Schoen or Deion?
Right.
I mean,
good point.
I mean,
good point.
I'm picking the phone. Even in I got 2 phone calls at the same time. Well, I'm going to get Deion's. I call Joe back. I mean, right. You know what I mean? Like, if Howie's calling me or Deion's calling me, I'm picking Howie's up. You know why? I get a chance to be on a world championship football team and get paid or get an opportunity to get paid. I'm picking Howie's up. I don't care. I mean, do you know how many general managers that I wouldn't pick up the phone other than Howie's phone call? If Howie was calling me as a prospect and I'm one of the guys who are going to get drafted in the NFL, all of a sudden I get a phone call and it's Les Snead or it's Howie Roseman. Who do you think I'm picking the phone call up? I'm picking Howie's up first.
I don't know.
If I'm a free agent who has been fired in multiple places, who am I picking the phone up? Les or him? Howie. You know why? I just saw a dude, Oren Burks, and I just saw another guy in Zach Bond who were nobodies. Go to that place and get a chance to play. I'm picking that phone up. I changed my whole. I hate that he's a Gator, but whatever. Anyway.
Yeah, big personality, big city, big impact.
And big winner. Big winner.
Yeah, big winner. No doubt. No doubt.
Supers.
Don't let him get to Dallas. Although I don't think it'd work with Jerry, but I don't want to see Deion and Shador in Dallas.
Well, you don't want the legendary.
I'll wish for that, not me.
But you don't want the legendary Shanahan being the guy who you think is going to look. That's a Shanahan. You know when the apple falls off the tree, that apple is kind of like thrown from the tree because I don't think that's Kyle or Mike. But hey, who knows? All right, let's get to these supers.
Right, we got to rattle these because we got Mark and Philly coming. Prince, What's up, Prince? Good to see you, bro. Sills, you didn't believe in the defense last offseason and it proved you're wrong. I think we should trust the process. You were questioning who this guy was the whole offseason when it came to defense.
Okay, Prince, I'm sure you'll duplicate it again because that's normally how we always find Zach Bonds, right? How many Zach Bonds have you found in your entire life?
Joshua Uche.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Q Ball says Big Z hit Sills with the Steiner math about the NFC East. I don't even that's above my
pay grade.
My intellect there. Kyle Kokorski checks in. What's up, Kyle? Why do I got a feeling the Eagles going to draft 2 D linemen in the first 2 rounds? Because they're probably gonna.
Because they do what the Dallas Cowboys don't do. They build inside the lines. They build the lines.
With Dallas, they're actually a really good drafting team. Who's that guy that runs their Will McClay, is it, in Dallas?
Yes.
Yeah, he's good, man. He does a good job. Now, they didn't hit on Mozzie. Mozzie hasn't been good, but they do spend assets there. They're a pretty good drafting team. I'm surprised they haven't figured it out a little better.
I'll tell you what happens. They go too long in the process on re-signing guys. They spent the whole entire offseason dicking around with CeeDee Lamb.
Yeah, but I think there's an Eagle lens here that we fail to see. Like, let's just be real. All right. If the Eagles won 12 games 3 straight years, and then our starting quarterback got hurt and missed most of the year, and we won 7 games, we probably wouldn't be like, we're going to be the worst team in the world. Like, I think Eagle fans are a little bit delusional. The Cowboys are fine. They're getting Dak back this year. They're going to be better than 7 wins.
Dak is not the problem.
Well, he is in the playoffs.
Okay. Well, get this. I think bad coaching is the problem in the playoffs.
Oh, that's fair. They got Schottenheimer. I don't think it's going to get any better. Pumper checks in. Our hope is Dolores Jackson, Joshua Ocho, and candied yams. Good night. We are cooked. Howie laid a fucking egg for our offseason.
Who are these guys, man? Holy cow.
Dolores Jackson, he called them.
I feel like Conor McGregor here. Who are these guys?
Two more. Bald Eagle says, what's up, Bald? Think the Eagles should call the Giants about Brian Burns. Giants signed Wilson, so there is a possibility they draft Carter. Now they're deep at defensive end. Now they're not taking Carter.
They're going to take, if anything, they're going to take Sanders or they're going to take Travis Hunter.
I agree. Hunter. I think it's Hunter. Jameson Smith. What's up, Jameson? Hope you're doing good, brother. What's up, everyone? Been a long minute. Hey, did you guys already talk about these Dak rumors to Cleveland? It's already picking up steam.
Oh,
Cowboys.
How can we get Mark Holmes on here and not talk about Dak Prescott?
Wait a second. Can I ask a question? What the hell is Dak Prescott going to do for Cleveland?
They'll probably win.
They have a decent roster. I mean, they went to the playoffs with Baker Mayfield. I think people forget that.
I mean,
and if you're Dallas, what do? You take the second overall pick. You draft Shedeur Sanders.
Yep. Or, yeah, you take Shedeur because they're gonna take Cam. It's Tennessee. Or I heard Tennessee's talking to trying to pimp that
pick.
You're
going to go to 2. You might as well go to 1 if you're Dallas.
Well, I think they want Sanders.
Yeah,
you know who started this year's?
Remember, Jerry loves the headlines. Who's going to get more headlines next year? Cam Ward.
You know who started this last year? I did. I said that Sanders, Dion, and Shedeur were going to be in Dallas.
We'll see. I don't want to see that. I don't know. I'm not a fan of that. All right. All right. Good stuff, Sileo. That's everybody. Enjoy the Battle Royale coming up.
Hey, wait a minute. By the way, last thing before, make sure you tell John I understand where he's coming from on the NFC East. The Washington Commanders will win the East this coming season.
Third in the East. Commanders fans, 3rd in the East. Dallas will be 2. Eagles will be 1. Thank you very much.
All right.
13 wins for the Birds, 11 for Dallas, 10 for Washington.
Don't forget to catch my man.
See you, everybody.
Birds 365. Great stuff, Big Z. All right. I've been waiting for this because now the rumors. See, we are now in the wheelhouse of the Cowboys right now. This is when the Dallas Cowboys are world champions in the offseason when everything is Dallas right now, baby. They got rumors that they're going to move up to 2 to get Shedeur Sanders. Would that mean also that you might want to get rid of Kevin Stefanski and drop Dion in the building there for him to become the head coach there? Or Dallas again to hire Dion after a shot and high? I don't know. What would you do here? But it's Dallas. And then you have the Eagles. And Philly 500's name, we have changed it to Champ. We've got to say this. And by the way, how about this one here? Champs lost 12 dudes. 12 off that championship roster. How's he feeling? Without further ado, it is now the first installment of the 2025 Battle Royale between Mark Holmes and the Dallas Cowboys and Philly Champion 500 here on the Big Sill Show. Gentlemen, welcome aboard.
Mark, your redemption draws near. Your redemption draws near. Oh, my gosh. Big things happening in Dallas. Oh, my gosh. If they trade Dak Prescott, it will be the most genius move I've seen Dallas making years. Hopefully that doesn't happen because the champ wants to continue to watch them lose. But Mark, your redemption draws near. You should be so excited about this opportunity that you got to get a young franchise quarterback in Deion Sanders' kid. He's got feet like his father. He can move. I mean, you got to be feeling good right now. I'm kind of excited for you. The champ is a little excited for you. I hope it doesn't happen. I want Dak to be there so you continue to choke in the playoffs and lose. I think Xander's smoking, a little bit too much today. The Dallas Cowboys are going to have 11 wins. Is he crazy? It ain't going to happen. But, hey, I'm excited for Mark. I'm excited for you, buddy.
Mark, how are you,
Your
my
redemption
friend?
rolls near. The Cowboys' rapture is at hand.
Are ratings down or something? And so you're bringing in the Cowboys to pump up the ratings because that's what we're good for.
Well, no, I know. That's kind of really, in a way, Mark, I mean, Cowboy talk. I mean, it's not Cowboy wins. It's Cowboy talk that really kind of enhances ratings. So are you excited about the offseason in any way here?
Okay. You know what? As a Dallas Cowboys YouTuber, the great thing about it is there's never a lack of content. Honestly, there is more shit now to talk about than the shit sandwich that we had during the season of basically everybody being injured and just literally getting mollywopped by everybody. At least there's some hope, and at least there's some movement that's going on. And of course, everybody, if you're channel is not doing good or nobody knows who the hell you are, all you got to do is talk about the Dallas Cowboys. You got to go out there and say
Mark,
Cleveland.
Wait, the Eagles are champions.
Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot to address our buddy the Chump. How you doing, Chump? You said to refer to you as Chump, right?
No, champ.
I have dyslexia, so to me it looks like Chump.
I still, is somebody talking? Is somebody talking in here?
The Chump is here.
Somebody say something?
The Chump is here.
I don't hear. Well,
Mark, what about the rumor? What about the rumor Dak Prescott to Cleveland so you can get the 2 pick so you can get Shedeur Sanders in the building?
Very smart.
Yeah, Philly 500 sent me that with all the laughing emojis and stuff like that. So let me see if I got this straight, because this reminds me of Skip Bayless saying that Jerry Jones basically told him about the trade of Herschel Walker and consulted him, okay? So Bruce Drayden, who's a radio guy, not as famous as you, of course, Phil, not as famous as you, literally has 2,067 Twitter followers. You want to get some people to watch? The Cowboys are trading Dak Prescott.
Hey, Mark, I just got some insight right now from
I'm
people.
sorry, dude.
Oh, wait, get this.
Go ahead.
Hey, Philly, I just got seriously. I just got some people inside the Cleveland Browns organization who we happen to be friends with, and says that they're trying to trade Dak. They're trying to trade for Dak Prescott, and they're going to
they are.
And they're going to cut Deshaun Watson.
Well, they have to. I mean, the reality is they screwed the pooch on that contract. They owe him about $170 million, and bringing him back for what? He tore his ACL. Tore his Achilles second time after, just getting it operated on 5 months ago. He's damaged goods. He's never going to mount anything. So why hold on to him? They restructured his contract so they can get rid of him. But you still have Dak Prescott with a no trade clause that's in it. And if you're Dak Prescott, you might want to get out of Dallas, but do you really want to go to freaking Cleveland?
I think they got a pretty good I think they got a pretty decent roster, especially on defense. And here's the guy that I'm getting this from. Paul DePodesta is saying this stuff, that there's truth to this, that the Browns are trying to trade for Dak and that the Cowboys are open to it because it's such a high pick to go to number 2. Now, I mean, I thought it was bullshit until I just got this email.
I didn't.
What about you, Philly? What about this move here? What would this mean?
I think it's it would be a very, very smart move by the Cowboys. You've got a 32-year-old quarterback that can't win in the playoffs. He's never going to win in Dallas. He's on a team that really, I mean, when you look at the Dallas Cowboys from an Eagles perspective, what have they done this all season that scares you? Nothing. They haven't done anything as of right now. So I don't think they're really that much better. I mean, how great is their roster, right? Dak goes out and their whole team collapses. They got no running game. Who's scared of their running game? They got no passing game. Who's scared of their passing game? I don't think that Dak will ever win in Dallas. I'm just being honest. And I think if I'm Jerry Jones and I like a young kid like Sanders and I'm enamored by him and a young franchise quarterback, yeah, I think that's actually a really smart trade. I think you should sell Dak while you can, and he's got value, and get the young kid and rebuild that roster. Pay Micah the big money that you need to. I think if Dallas wants to win, they have a much better chance of winning in the future doing that than keeping Dak. And that's all honesty.
How about this, Mark? I'm gonna tweet out here.
Why would I do my homework on the Browns cap? Like I give two shits. I just got to respond to game time. Why do I give shit
they're
about
cap hell,
the
or they
Browns
will
cap?
be.
Who
They
cares?
can't
Work
take
out. I
on
don't
Dak's
care.
contract.
That's not my problem. That's not my problem. All I'm saying.
Oh no, it's not
all
your
I'm
problem. It's
saying-
the Cleveland
no,
Browns
all
problem.
I'm saying is that from the perspective of being smart and doing something right, who care? I don't give a shit about the cap. Personally, I don't care what Dallas does. I think I'd rather them keep Dak. But from a football perspective, yeah, to me, that's a smart move.
How about this, though, Philly? Get this. You know how you do make that $60 million work? You trade Myles Garrett prior to the draft to a team, and you create cap space.
Help you though. Shit, you
Yeah,
need
but
Myles
maybe
Garrett.
Myles Garrett's
that's why
not going to
Myles
help you win in Cleveland.
I don't. To me,
It sounds great to talk about, but if I had $1 for every time I heard a rumor about Dak Prescott being traded or not re-signed, I could go into the club like Pac-Man Jones and make that motherfucker rain. Okay, it's not gonna happen. Okay,
great.
It's literally not. Okay,
thank God, Sills.
If I were Dak Prescott and I did consider going elsewhere, it wouldn't be going to Cleveland. It would be someplace that's ready to win right now. Yeah. And if I wanted to get the hell out of there, I wouldn't have signed the contract that I did. I would have stayed there and played on the last year of my deal and got out and picked the team that I wanted to go to.
Well, let me ask you if you're Dak Prescott, because I brought this up about one thing that Jalen Hurts has done here. The one thing that Jalen Hurts has done right now, he's put guys like Joe Burrow and Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson and the rest of these guys on notice in those organizations that if you're not going to win a championship, if I'm Dak Prescott, no matter what I'm going to make, no matter what the salary is, Mark, if I'm in no line to win a championship, and would we agree? You think Dallas is in the next 5 years, you think Dallas is going to win a world championship?
That depends on what the Joneses do. Now, they still sitting here $39 million. If they go through and start running the organization, if I want to say, shut up, Philly. Shut up, bro.
Come on, man. You know the answer.
Well, here's the deal. You don't flip. Okay. If you're going to trade Dak Prescott, I hear what you're saying. You don't flip the trigger so you owe him more money. Why would you flip a trigger so that way when I trade him, it's going to be harder for me because I'm going to eat more money? You don't do that.
Well, maybe they didn't. Maybe they didn't plan on it. But when the
interesting thing is,
number two,
if you go by Bruce Drayden, he's saying that the reason Myles Garrett came back was because of the rumor that they were going to sign Dak Prescott. Okay, so you're talking about some time that's been going on. The Cowboys flipped that trigger right about that same time, there, buddy. So it's not really adding up any way, shape, or form. That's great that you hear that the Browns.
I've literally never heard.
I'm sure the Browns are trying to find a quarterback because they know they don't have one right now. So of course they're going to turn over every
I've
stone.
never heard Dak in any trade rumors before. This is like literally.
Oh my God! Well, you don't listen to Cowboys media then, because good
Last
Lord,
year,
yeah,
there
of
was,
course I
there
do.
was talk about him, Philly, going to Pittsburgh.
Dak,
Pittsburgh,
I
New
never heard
York. It was if there's an opening, trade Dak.
If
Trade Dak.
Dallas is
I've
smart,
been listening to trade
smart.
Dak since a sophomore year.
Let me ask you this: would you trade Micah Parsons and trade for Dak Prescott? Because again, the $40 million you're going to have to pay Micah Parsons. I could get draft choices back, and I could get another first-round pick for Micah, and I could also get the second pick in the draft. So I could get the second pick in the draft, okay, if I'm Dallas. I could get Shador, trade Micah, fill holes throughout the entire roster in the O-line, on the defense, in the linebacker, in the safety position. I mean, you could really do some damage here right now. This is what really all in is.
I hear what you're saying, but the Cowboys' problem isn't just Dak Prescott. The Cowboys' problem is they go cheap. They don't have the players in the surrounding cast. You can look at the Eagles and say Jalen Hurts is the greatest quarterback since Joe Montana, but a guy who only had to throw 18 touchdown passes and 2,900 yards, that says you got a great team. And when you got a running back that's rushing for 2,000 yards, you got a great offensive line, you got a really good tight end and 2 wide receivers, and a defense that's full of thugs, you're in great shape. We ain't got none of that shit. We got one receiver.
Why keep Dak?
Why keep Dak at 60?
Hey, because he moves the needle and keeps you relevant in the headline.
What needle?
I want to roll the win.
Listen, I'm not the one running the organization. You want to know what they're doing? The needle.
What needle's he moving?
The needle, literally everybody. We're sitting here talking about trading Dak to Cleveland.
Well, because that's what the news is right now. If
that's
it was
what the news
trade
is,
for somebody else,
got
we would
Dak
be talking
Prescott
about it.
there in the Dallas Cowboys organization.
Nobody
he is the gift that
about
keeps on
Dak.
giving. Whether
He's
it's the
never
$60
given
million,
anything. He's only taken. He's taken your playoff chances away. He's taken your money away. He's taken your running back away. He's taking nothing.
The Cowboys could do anything they want to fucking do if they wanted to do it. Because if they did, when he was after his rookie year getting $680,000, not 1 year, not 2 years, but 3 years, in the third year at $2 million. If they wanted to win, they would have brought in free agents and
Mark, here's the problem with the Cowboys. They hang out in the middle of mediocrity.
Yes, they
don't. You're either all in. Now look at what the Eagles.
But their problems are of their own making.
Look at
hold on. Their problems of their own making. You can blame Dak Prescott in his contract, but you can turn around and look at every single one of them that they do. Everybody in the top 15 in Micah Parsons' draft already has their next contract. They should have got that shit done last year and made it cost effective. They should have done the same thing with CeeDee Lamb, and they won't do it with Deron Bland, and they won't do it with Tyler Smith. You think their price is going to go down next year? No, but they will wait and keep hamstringing themselves because they like to be in the fucking spotlight with, we're going to trade Dak, we're going to trade Micah, or will they sign him? It's all a game.
I just had Jimmy Johnson on 2 days ago. Okay?
Shout out to Jimmy.
I just texted him. It's true. The Browns are trying to trade for Dak.
You got to have two to dance.
Okay. I mean,
to me,
Mark.
To me,
okay. I tell you what. If it happens, it happens. I don't believe it till it happens.
Everything Mark is saying sounds like reasons why they should trade Dak. Then
correct.
That's what I'm not understanding.
Mark, start over.
Okay, I hear you.
I mean.
Yeah, because if you're not going to go out and pay guys and do everything you can do for Dak Prescott right at 31, whatever old he is, then you might as well get rid of him and then start rebuilding with a younger kid that gives you time to put stuff together through the draft. I don't understand, based upon what you're saying their philosophy is for that team, why would you keep them then? You might as well trade them.
Let me ask you this, Mark. How
Okay.
close do you think at full force, full health, how close do you think you are to the Eagles right now?
Well, the Eagles, how many was it? 9 guys you let go?
12.
12 guys. 12 guys. And that's not going to be the same team next year. I'm not saying that they're not a great team, because you have great players on that defensive line and your offensive line. And that's where a team needs to be built. But I do know that Dak has been relatively good in our division without doing anything to help him. The bottom line is the Cowboys have to go ahead and make moves for legitimate players. You can't just say we got Dak, CD, and Micah Parsons and think you're going to win a Super Bowl. With or without Sador Sanders, you've got to get some other playmakers to go with them. Or you've got to hit lights out in the draft. Your first 3 players all have to be impact, and I don't see that happening.
Do you think the Eagles take a step back, Mark?
I do.
What about you,
Super Bowl
Philly?
hangover is real.
No, I think we're going to repeat. I mean, listen, I don't think right now you can say we're as deep as we were a year ago. I mean, we've lost some guys, but everything that they've done besides the one C.J. Gardner-Johnson thing that I still don't understand, everything was planned a year in advance. We all knew this was going to happen. There's nobody that they've lost that we didn't think was going to happen, except for C.J. Gardner-Johnson. And I think that if you look at the guys that we got, I think that they're going to be able to make up for the numbers of a Josh Sweat, of a Milton Williams. I think we've got the young guys behind those guys. They played very well down the stretch. They played well in the Super Bowl. And I think, I think it might take, a little bit of time for those guys to play. But I don't think there's anybody we haven't replaced except for C.J. Gardner-Johnson at this point. To me, that's the one that I don't understand. Everything else, we're good to go, man. I think we're good to go.
Let me show you something here on what made Jimmy Johnson's Cowboy team so great, though. I just brought this up with Xander. Okay, who's replacing Oren Burks, Fred Johnson, Isaiah Rodgers, and Tyler Steen in their roles? All of those guys played north of 500 reps, and get this, they've all left to be starters on other places. The depth level that you had last year, 500, was that those players like Oren Burks could step in for Nakobe, and there were no drop-off. You have unproven at starter and unproven at backup in those respective roles. Everybody knew last year their role. They did. Now, you're sitting here on March 26th. You're not only talking about your front of your roster, you're talking about the back end and the bottom 10% of your roster that you see these guys they brought in, those guys can't be your frontline guys. They have to be your bottom end guys in your roster.
They don't have to be. But I got a lot of picks that are ready to replace some of these guys. They've got to go out and prove it. But everything that the Eagles did was pretty much calculated more than a year ago, Sills. And here's the thing. You're talking about March 26th. They're not playing Sunday. It's a lot easier for me to go replace Oren Burks than it is for the Dallas Cowboys to go find a significant impact wide receiver number 2, or a real starting running back that really moves the needle. The Eagles got their starters pretty much set up. They've got to get depth still, but we're still in the process of that. I think they'll be able to find.
Get this: who's playing corner 2? Keely Ringo at 87 snaps last year?
Yeah, I think he's going to get a chance. And if he can't do it, then you got Adoree Jackson, who may not be the greatest corner in the league, but he's competent enough to play the position. When you have the rest of the guys around him, I think that they can make it work. And I don't understand why Ringo can't play in this league. Let's see what he can do. That was the plan. It was planned all along. That's what they were going to do.
Tell me this. Then why didn't Vic Fangio go to him when they needed help, when Slay got injured, or when the other guy, Q, ended up getting injured? They went to Isaiah Rodgers. They didn't go to Keely Ringo, and he was healthy.
Well, they put Isaiah Rodgers in, then they put Ringo. They kind of switched it around a little bit. But you gotta understand this. If they thought so much of Isaiah Rodgers, why didn't they bring him back? He was $8 million for 2 years guaranteed. They could have easily brought him back. So that tells me that they didn't think enough of him to bring him back. And so they brought in Adoree Jackson, who could be competent at that spot. And they're going to give a chance to Ringo. Maybe they'll draft a corner. I don't know. But I don't think – I mean, we're talking about depth pieces, and, of course, it's important. But if you look at those starters for the most part, except for safety and maybe that corner, the Eagles are set to go, man. I think we're going to be fine.
Mark, what's the biggest concern outside of the quarterback conversation right now, in your opinion, for the Cowboys to try to get up into the room? Because I think it's Washington – and I think it's Philadelphia in the East right now. That's the teams that you have to get into the conversation with. In your opinion, what's the biggest concern right now for Dallas?
Well, first of all, let me say that the Cowboys did beat the Commanders one time this past season. And the Cowboys with Dak Prescott has been pretty good in our division. The Cowboys will be better if they are just healthier, first of all. Second thing, the big concern is the Cowboys need more playmakers. You can't just go into the season saying, we got CeeDee Lamb. You got to get the running game better than Miles Sanders. And actually, let me go ahead and just make it easy for you guys, because let me just say the Cowboys suck. The owner is terrible. The GM is ass, that they haven't done anything, and we're just going to be awful. Does that make y'all feel better?
I agree.
And that,
No.
what I want you to, I don't want you to surrender like that. I want you to start
well, that's isn't that why I'm here? Aren't I here for comic relief?
I agree because relying on Dak's record in the past for the NFC East isn't a good enough reason to assume that
I would really do. Can we honestly look and say that the Cowboys have been a team that's had like 2 weapons, 2 wide receivers, and a great running back?
We got to do this again.
In 2020. Since 2020, the best season rushing the football has been 1,029 yards. Best running back in the last 5 years has had 129 yards.
Mark, wait a minute. That sounds great, but I want to show you something. Wait. I want to show you something.
Give me Saquon and let me give me a 2,000-yard season.
Kellen Moore proves your theory wrong that it wasn't Kellen Moore in Dallas because he just won a Super Bowl.
He won a Super Bowl with the loaded team, bro.
You had a loaded team too when he won the number
not
1.
Not like that, bro. Our offensive line. Back it up.
Didn't have a number 1.
We are brothers in arms. We know how fucking important the defensive line is and offensive line. We have not had a great offensive line since Travis Frederick got Hillian bars. Tyron Smith has been in and out of the freaking lineup. We still are trying to figure out right tackle. You can't tell me that Terrence Steele is like, one of your guys. You can't tell me that. Yes, we've had Zach Martin, but for the most part, the last 3 years of Tyron Smith being in the Cowboys, he had 1 year that he actually played almost the whole season. And in between there, we've had a bunch of guys that have been in the offensive line.
Philly, wait a minute here. You look like you're just ready to throw up in one of those vomit.
You can't talk sense to these Cowboy fans, man.
There's no sense. I'm surrendering to you and saying congratulations, because you got the best GM in football who's actually saying, let's go out here and get the best players available that we can. What did the Cowboys do last year for defensive linemen? We traded for Jordan Phillips after training camp with Mozzie Smith. You're
Dallas Cowboys.
You're going to compare that to what the Eagles do?
Then why
you're Dallas
back?
Right,
why do we do anything that we do? Because if I had Dak Prescott, I would say, let me do like we did with Jalen Hurts. We don't know if he can play or not, but we're going to make sure that he can't by getting him multiple weapons. We're going to give him a great offensive line. We're going to get a defense. They surrounded him with talent. You cannot say that the Dallas Cowboys have gone out and said, let's improve our running game.
The Cowboys won, 12 games or more
And I'm going to say they actually overperformed with the talent that they had.
And then they still get to the first round of the playoffs and lose.
I will still go back and say they overperformed with the talent that they had.
Do you still to this day
overperformed?
Believe that Dak Prescott is a better all-around quarterback than Jalen Hurts?
Yes.
Okay, why?
I tell you what. If you take Jalen Hurts and you put him on Cincinnati, are they winning the Super Bowl?
Cincinnati?
You put him on Cincinnati. You think they're winning the Super Bowl?
I don't know that Cincinnati's got that great of a roster anyways.
Would you say that he's better than Joe Burrow?
Hell no.
Dude.
Okay. Would you if you put Jalen Hurts on
if you put
Baltimore?
Dak on
Hold on. Wait. He asked me a question.
Okay.
If you put Jalen Hurts on Baltimore, are they going to go to the Super Bowl?
Yes.
That kind of fits his style. I'll tell you one thing I like about Hurts over Lamar.
Okay.
I think he sees the game better and makes better in-game decisions than Lamar does. And I think they panicked in Baltimore if you're ever going to get into a game with Kansas City, if you can't run the ball or have the threat of running the ball, and they do in Baltimore, and you take the ball out of Derrick Henry's hand and you put the ball in the passing arm of Lamar, the problem with Baltimore is they think Lamar's going to beat you passing the ball. I know he had a great year throwing it, but every time he gets into critical games, here's the difference between Jalen Hurts and Lamar. In big games, look at Jalen's numbers in those big games passing-wise. Look at Lamar's in those games. They're all dog shit games that he's played. I get it. It's Mahomes.
How about this one? If you put Jalen Hurts on the Cowboys, are they winning the Super Bowl?
Hell no.
If you put Dak Prescott on,
if I put Joe Burrow in Dallas, they're not winning it.
Thank you. Then you've made my argument that it's not Dak Prescott.
I never.
You made the argument that it's not Dak Prescott. It's the fucking team sucks.
Okay, then why keep him?
Because he's the thing that keeps you relevant at the moment.
I don't want to be relevant. I want to be good.
Oh, apparently. Well, then ask Jerry that one, because he's been doing the same stupid shit for 30 years.
I think that
he's been doing this for 30 years. Other teams. So if you take Washington, they look at it and said, "Hey, we went to the NFC Championship game. What can we do to get better? Let's make a trade for Debo."
Here's what I'll say.
They've gone out and they at least signed Michael Gallup. They are trying to get better. They're not saying we're good this year. We're just going to roll the dice next year and see if we can get the Super Bowl. The Cowboys don't do that.
If you put Dak Prescott on the Eagles, he doesn't win the Super Bowl. They do not win a Super Bowl. They cannot beat Kansas City that game. They do not win that game where Barkley's not running the ball right. Barkley didn't have 100+ yards. They shut him down. You had to beat him with the arm. Dak does not win that game. That's the difference. Dak may not have the roster right now, but if you look at a few years ago, Dak's had some really good rosters where he's been a number one seed, where he's been a number 2 seed, and then he loses.
Philly, I'm going to tell you why Dak wins the Super Bowl in Philly, and I'll tell you why.
I don't believe he does.
They wouldn't put the ball in his hands to have the critical decisions to make the turnover. They're going to put it in Barkley's hands like they did all year long.
Except for the Super Bowl, right? What happened in the Super Bowl?
They're going to manage
what happened in the Super Bowl?
But Philly, that guy is not going to win week to week throwing the ball in Philly.
He averaged 21 passes a game all season.
In the 2 biggest games of his career, he threw the ball just fine. When the big moments are, he throws the ball just fine. Look, look. How many yards did Barkley have in the Super Bowl? Barkley didn't.
But you know what? But here's the thing, though. But see, no. I'm not going to let you have that one, because the reason why was because Kansas City came out and they said, we're not going to let Barkley beat him. They came out and they said, our number one thing is going to stop the run. They had 8 men in the box, and that's what they went for. Now, if you got single coverage out there with the receivers, he stepped up and did the thing. But here's the thing. Ain't nobody been scared of the Cowboys running game.
Well, what about the years
literally,
that they were
it's either
scared?
You win because of Dak Prescott's arm, or you lose because of Dak Prescott's arm.
What about the years
you
they
have
Zeke
more things to draw from? Where yes,
do you
that
remember
game
when Zeke was good, when they had the best offensive line of football?
Here's the funny thing. That's a misnomer,
and what happened? He still choked, Mark.
His rookie year, He was fantastic. They ended up basically going toe for toe. He had 125 yards in the playoffs. That game, they should have beat Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers, of course, our defense couldn't stop him. Couldn't stop Aaron Rodgers for 52 seconds. But be that as it may, every single year after that, Zeke Elliott went downhill. The very next year, he's suspended for 6 games. And when he wasn't suspended, he was going back and forth to New York trying to keep from getting suspended.
Hold on, guys.
After 2020, he was only 1,000 yards back. He was Miles Sanders.
I agree. Keep that.
I just got a text message from Jay Gruden that it's true. The Cowboys have taken a call from the Browns and trying to trade for Dak.
Of course,
they're
call.
smart.
You
That
take
would
a
be
call
a
from
smart
everybody.
move. It's a very smart move.
I mean, you'd be starting over, Mark.
Wouldn't be the first time.
And I think that would mean the end of Micah in Dallas. What do you make of that?
If
do you bring Micah
if
back?
you trade Dak, then that would be a complete rebuild. If you were to trade Dak Prescott, if you could, you would trade Micah too.
Why?
Because the thing is you're starting off with Sedor. I doubt that you're going to go to the Super Bowl in the first year. What that says is let's build the team like the Cowboys did back in the 90s. Okay, you start over, you get a group of guys, and you start the process of winning together. And you look at that and say, Micah Parsons, 2 or 3 years from now for winning, he's going to start being on the tail end side of his career.
Okay.
How old is that? How old is Micah?
Micah's still young, but he's got, this is his 5th year.
Why would you trade him? I wouldn't trade him. I would sign him to an extension.
If I'm going to go ahead and if I'm going to go through the process of not having a quarterback, I'm starting all over with all my picks. I go ahead and get what I can. If I can get 2 number ones. Now, the other side of this equation is the Cowboys suck at trades. The Cowboys suck at trades. They always pay too much and get too little in return.
Here, let me give you it looks like Chicago has interest in Micah. This is really all evolving right here in front of us, guys. I got a text from Jimmy just a couple minutes ago, and it looks like, again, that New England would be interested in Micah Parsons.
I'm sure there's a lot of teams that would be interested in Micah Parsons.
But here's the reason why that Dallas would be interested in that pick, because that's the 4th overall pick.
Mm-hmm.
So you get the 4th overall pick, you get Travis Hunter there. And then you draft
Dallas picks twice in the first 5?
What?
You think they draft 2 times in the first top 5?
5 picks.
So you
they're going to get 2. They would get 2 ones, most likely, or a 1 and 2 twos. If you did it, Dallas. I mean, I don't know, because you're not Mark. You're not going anywhere if you sign.
Oh boy.
Micah Parsons to a $40 million extension.
I hear what you're saying.
What you're doing in the O-line. You just lost Zach Martin. The guy from Oklahoma has a long way to go. You need help. And get this. You know what you have in Dallas right now? You have a $60 million quarterback and a 2-cent O-line.
I can't disagree with that one.
And a $35 million wideout that you're not going to get the ball to. Why not trade his ass? I mean, you got 2 Mozzie Smiths on both sides of the ball.
You know what the funniest thing is going to be is I'm going to come back to this live stream
know the difference
during the season.
Here's the difference between the Cowboys and the Eagles. They got Jordan Mailata and Jalen Carter. You got Lazy Smith and Guyton.
Damn. I knew I dreaded coming on here for it. You know, I knew I did not want to come on here.
That's crazy that rumor hit right before we came on, though. You got to admit.
There's nothing to that.
You got to admit.
Okay.
I think there's definitely something to it.
They can talk all they want, but, and teams talk all the time. And I'm sure Cleveland is calling around trying to do something. But here's the thing with the Dak Prescott situation. If you make a trade pre-June 1st, which is what you would want to do if you're the other team, because you want the picks, you got $148 million dead hit for the Cowboys. $148 million dead hit.
Wait a second.
You
That's
eat it.
not.
You just eat it.
Wait, no.
Trade pre-June 1st.
Wait, but you can defer for 2.5 years, half that hit. So it would not be 100 plus in one hit. It would be
agree. I
deferred
hear
out
you.
over 3 years.
I agree. That's true. You can use the voidable years, but at some point you got to pay the piper, and that's what's gotten the Cowboys in trouble. Is they're always kicking shit down the road and redoing contracts because they screw up on so many of them. It's a great rumor, but we'll be sitting here on opening day. Dak Prescott will be the quarterback for the Cowboys.
I hope you're right. God, I hope you're right.
Philly,
I hope he's right.
Couple last ones
right.
here. You're not concerned at all about all these guys you're replacing, plus a new coordinator.
I just honestly think this has been. I just feel like we're going through the process of the plan that was laid out over a year ago. And no, you know what? I feel good about some of these young guys.
I hear that. The plan that played out a year ago. Man, shut the fuck up.
Look, listen. I came on here. We've talked about this how many times? We knew Josh Sweat wasn't going to be here. Milt Williams wasn't going to be here. We knew that Slay was in his last year. None of this is a surprise. But Nolan Smith showed up in the playoffs. Jalen Hunt actually produced just as much as Josh Sweat did for the most part in the playoffs. So what I'm saying is I have hope in these young guys, and I believe that they should be given a chance, and I think they'll be okay. No, we got some work to do. We got the draft. There's still moves to be made. But as we're sitting here on March 20, we don't play this Sunday. So I think we'll be just fine. But no, I like the young guys we got. Sills, I think we got a lot of young talent on our team.
I want you to do one thing for me, Philly. Everybody be quiet for a second. All right. Is somebody doing a bong behind you? Is that a bong hit, Mark, that somebody's
That's not
doing?
me.
A bong hit? What are you
That
talking
noise?
about?
That's not me.
Ain't nobody behind me.
Wait, look, listen, I'm going to mute myself.
Listen. Sounds like somebody's doing a bong hit somewhere. I don't know.
That's not me, though.
What the fuck does a bong hit sound like?
I don't know. Maybe it's Jerry. I don't know.
It sounds like a
maybe I need to. Maybe I need to with the shit you got. I need something to chill me the fuck out.
Okay, so in your opinion, last question for you, Mark. In your opinion, these rumors about Dak going to Cleveland, you think they're full of shit?
I'm not going to say that Cleveland might not have called. I'm sure a lot of people have called and things to make moves.
That's right. That's how.
I mean, that's you pick up the phone, everybody is tradable. And, if you're right now looking around, there's not a lot of quarterbacks that are out there in the NFL, as we've seen, where Aaron Rodgers is literally going around and holding people hostage. What I will say, though, is contrary to what you believe here is I think the Cowboys have actually done better than what they usually do in getting some depth. And the Cowboys, if nothing else, as opposed to what they usually do, which is getting guys like Hankins or Linval Joseph or Dontari Pose, guys that are on their way out of the NFL, they've got a new philosophy of let's get guys who should have been playing better than what they have and hope that they can coach them up. When you get a guy like Solomon Thomas, when you go ahead and when you end up getting, we'll see. We'll see if the philosophy works. But they've got.
I'm laughing at Philly.
You can laugh all you want. Okay, it's funny that you're sitting up here on this high horse when last year you were laughing about the Eagles, how they were going to suck ass.
Buddy.
We might be like the Eagles next year and better than what you think.
Golden era of football.
Oh my God! All right,
golden era. Look at that.
The chump is here.
You're talking to the champ.
The chump is here.
You will honor it. Kiss the ring, buddy.
He's got a gold hat.
How about
the
golden you kiss my ass?
Eagles football.
Okay.
Kiss your ass. Your Dak Prescott stinks. Your owner stinks. Your GM stinks. Your roster stinks. Your quarterback stinks. And you're fighting for this quarterback to stay on your team. Who's 31 years old, and he stinks. And he can't win the big games.
I hope I was
Can't
good
win
for
the
your
big game.
ratings.
You'll never, ever, ever win a Super Bowl with Dak Prescott.
Hey,
Golden
Mark,
era of Eagles football.
this guy pulls a gold hat out on you.
Hey, you know what? You know the best way to get a guy to shut up is by beating him down. He deserves it. He deserves it. His
Right.
team did everything that they were supposed to do. They
Oh,
won the
God.
Super Bowl. I can't be mad at him. I have to be mad at my own organization for doing the shit that they do.
You sound like somebody's girlfriend surrendering. Will you stop with that? Go.
What am I
beat him.
supposed to? How can I
You're
compete with the
9-5
champ?
You're 9-5 against them with Dak. I mean, don't act like somebody's girlfriend. Come on,
Oh,
bro.
Lordy.
Hey, dude.
I'm going to be humble.
Why?
I mean, what
Your
do you-
owner's not.
Actually, my owner's kind of missing in action. If you kind of notice, he's only been out there twice.
Yeah, he's taking that
That's
paternity test. That's what he's doing. hey, Mark.
Dude, if I was Mark, I would be so excited with the possibilities of trading my 30-year-old quarterback for the possibilities of a young franchise quarterback. I mean, I don't know. That's exciting. I mean, you know, one team we didn't talk about real quick that we got to talk about is the stupidity of the New York Giants. I mean, here's a team that is basically kept the GM they should never have kept, and he's worried about winning games this year instead of rebuilding that team over years ago. Bring in Russell Wilson, I think was a gigantic mistake for them.
Actually, I got a little different take on that one, because I think what's happened is through the channels that Dion and Shador have let them know, we will not sign with you.
I don't think that's good at all.
No, I think actually it is, because, you know, Dion was talking about there's certain places we're not going to go. And I think that's what's been said under channels, that we're not going to sign with you. And so the Giants are looking and saying, we got to get a quarterback.
Let me tell you, I think the only thing good, and I said it earlier, about Russell Wilson going to New York is that Sierra's following him. One of the top-looking chicks of all time. It's it.
They've sent their team back 4 or 5 years. If they don't come away with a quarterback, they're screwed. They're not going to pick top 3 next year. They'll win like 7 games. Why you would do? You know why they did it? Because the GM is trying to keep his job. Yeah, that's what he's worried about. He's not worried about building a team 3 years. You think he cares about a quarterback in 3 years? He wants to keep his job. A horrible decision by the Giants to not fire that.
The other way you also look at it too is they know that this is the end for the current people, and you're going to get a new coach in here. Let him get his quarterback that he wants.
The problem is you have to get rid of the GM, and the problem is that you bring Russell Wilson in, and he's going to win 7 games, 8 games. You're not picking top 5 anymore. You're not getting a top 5 pick to go and get that quarterback. It's very stupid.
This is something.
He's saying, "Shut up, Philly. We got to get out of here."
You guys are awesome, man. I can't thank you guys enough. Hey,
we're
Mark,
taking over the show. You go ahead, Sills. You
all right, I'm out.
Take it from here.
Hey, I'm out.
Sorry.
Hey, guys, the champ. I dig the gold hat, bro. I do.
Thank you.
Hey, Mark, Cleveland, baby. If all places you want to not go, that's it.
I did. You definitely don't want to go to Cleveland, man. That's like Siberia.
No.
But shout out to Xander, because at least you have somebody intelligent here on the show.
Yeah. I appreciate you guys. Hey, big Philly 500, you're awesome. Mark, listen to me. Don't hide. I know you're at the local pub right now, hanging out, getting ready to have a shot of tequila here, because you're going to have to drown your sorrow after Dak gets sent to Cleveland. So I understand where you're coming from here. So, hey, I love it, dude. Thank you guys so much for coming aboard.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it. I'm going to go polish my ring.
I appreciate it that you haven't actually been hammering. I did lose my father-in-law a couple of weeks ago, and my dad's been in and out of the hospital and stuff. So that's the reason why I haven't been able to make it back on the show.
We love you, man. And I'll tell you what,
hey, sorry for your loss,
man. We do. We really do. And our condolences to all that, man. I know you've been going through a lot. You've been awesome for us today here. And hey, listen, man, we're always here for you. And we thought a lot about it the whole time. So God bless you and your family, brother.
Appreciate it.
You got it. Guys, thank you so much, man.
Thank you.
You got it. That is Philly 500 and Mark Holmes. We so appreciate those guys. Great sport, Mark. I love the guy, man. We appreciate Philly 500 as well. Guys, do me a favor. Hit the like button. John Morgan's going to join us in a couple minutes. Speaking of that, don't forget, if you've ever been injured, the number one injury law firm in America is Morgan & Morgan, with over $20 billion in recovery for families across the country with thousands of attorneys. Morgan & Morgan is here to help you and your family make sure insurance companies don't take advantage of you. That's right. I told you about the family right here in Pennsylvania where they were initially offered $650K, $26 million they got in recovery. In Florida, $350K? No way. Morgan & Morgan went in and got $12 million for that family. Easiest decision we'll make will be contacting my friends at Morgan & Morgan. For more info, go forthepeople.com/Big Sills or pound law 529. That's FORthepeople.com/Big Sills or pound law 529. And do me a favor, you tell them Big Sill sent you.
This is Eric. When he got injured in a car accident, he called Morgan & Morgan. He not only gets a lawyer, he gets trial lawyers like Sam and Jessica who are in it to win it. He gets his own investigators with briefcases, leather ones. And if you ever have questions, our customer service folks keep things rolling. Injured? We're your army. Morgan & Morgan, America's largest injury law firm.
Your financial future is on the line. Are you ready for what's next? At Leone & Company Wealth Management, we help young professionals, business owners, and pre-retirees navigate the complexities of building and protecting wealth. For young professionals, we'll help you grow your wealth, plan for your future, and make the most of your hard-earned dollars. For business owners, we provide strategies to protect your company, manage risks, and create a lasting legacy for both your business and personal wealth. For pre-retirees, we'll design a plan to secure your retirement, ensuring you can live comfortably and confidently in your next chapter. Whether you're just starting out, managing a thriving business, or preparing for retirement, we're here to help you take control of your financial future. The first consultation is on us. Get the advice you need without the cost. Let's make your financial vision a reality. Take the next step. Scan the QR code to schedule your free consultation today. And of course, go Birds.
Field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
In our hometown, we all look out for each other. We step up to keep our communities going strong. And at Independence Blue Cross, we're here to keep you going strong as the #1 health insurer in the region. No IBX is always looking out for you.
EAGLES, Eagles.
Big Sills National Football Show. We're trying to work on this here and seeing if we can get a link sent to John Morgan here. We're trying to do that right now. Our dear friend from Morgan & Morgan, obviously, we're going to try to get that all set up now. And he's been texting me here. I'll handle it. Fantastic. We are working on that. Again, I think it's pretty interesting stuff going on right now when we're talking about Dak Prescott potentially going to the Cleveland Browns. Does that make sense? It does make sense. It makes sense that Dallas has to look at where they are now next to the Philadelphia Eagles and really the Washington Commanders. You know, I heard Xander saying something earlier that, well, that gives you a better chance of winning But does that give you a better chance of winning a Super Bowl with the current roster, the way it's constructed? I mean, you can think whatever you want about Prescott as a quarterback, whether you like him or not, or whether you think he's better than Jalen as an overall passer, what have you. The one thing that Jalen has afforded that Dak's not is the fact that Dallas has not done the right things business-wise. Look, there's a reason that the Philadelphia Eagles are in the position they're in, and Dallas is in the position that they're in. They've mismanaged. I don't care what business you have. If you don't have the right guy delegating the powers that you need to have, where you have a football guy, okay? Hey, Xander, send it to that 7,000 one if you can. See if we can do that, okay? Send it to the 7,000 thing there if you can, okay? Thank you, brother. If you don't have proper management making it happen, I don't care where you are. At the end of the day, you got to have the three things that make organizations great in the NFL: head coach, general manager, and you have to have an owner that's willing to adapt all the time when it comes to structuring and how to build a football team and be willing to spend the money. And here's the one thing also that I think is different in Philly than in Dallas. They're going to make the tough putts and the tough cuts, or the tough players to move on from. That's what they do. Look at what they did when it came to moving on from Milton Williams and moving on from Josh Sweat. They moved on from those guys for the simple fact why. They knew down the road the structuring of the roster, for the health of the roster and for the health of the team. They knew that they had to make tough decisions. And they were willing to make those tough decisions. What's making this great for Philly is the fact that they're still going to contend because of what they've done on the offensive side of the football. That's why they're still going to contend. So when I look at it, do I believe this? And do I believe that there's conversations? Yes. Here, look at Cleveland. I believe Cleveland does have a good roster. I do. And I would say this to anybody about Dak. Dak's not going to win a Super Bowl, and I agree with Philly 500. They're not going to win a Super Bowl in Dallas. Thanks for having me on. Let's hope Dallas doesn't trade the choke artist. Philly, you're awesome, bro. Appreciate you big time, man. Working on John Morgan right now. Hopefully we're able to get him up here in a second here and get his take on sports. He was fantastic the last time that he was on with us, so I hope we're able to catch up with him here. Hit the like button, guys. Thank you guys again. Give me a total on the likes there, too. Appreciate that, by the way. Give me a total on it. Hit that like button. I want to make sure we get over 200 by the time we get off the air here, too. So, again, look, Dallas has to make these conversations. Guys, let's get over 200. Get this here. You know, the one thing that Dak Prescott's a good quarterback. Okay? He is a good quarterback. It's the roster that's letting them down. Jerry gets in his own way. He's a good quarterback. Every single time that he plays against Philly, Prescott has a great game. There's no question that the Cowboys with Dak give them a better chance of competing against the Philadelphia Eagles. But what it doesn't do with Dak, that doesn't give them a better opportunity at winning the NFC. Okay? Here's Philly. I don't believe Dak can win in the playoffs. To Philly's point, the one thing that is been definitely an issue now. Kellen Moore showed you, hey, he was his OC in Dallas. It's not the OC. He just won a Super Bowl with the Philadelphia Eagles. I mean, it's not the OC. The OC showed you what he could do. So, I mean, end of the day, it's not the coordinator. It's not the coach. I think it's the environment that we have here. So, hopefully we're able to get it. Let me send John a text here. Hit the like button here. I'm getting all kinds of text messages right now. Jay Gruden just sent me a text message just a couple minutes ago saying that he believes that the rumor's true. And also, I got somebody inside Paul DePodesta's office right now who said that there is conversation about the Cowboys and Dak Prescott and the Cleveland Browns. So that doesn't mean that they're not going to have a conversation. Okay? That doesn't mean that. Okay? It doesn't mean that the deal gets done. Got to have great management, man. Get this. Look at where the Cowboys are right now, and look where the Eagles are. The Eagles are trying to manage cap. Okay? They're trying to manage a cap. And the Cowboys are trying to figure out what direction to go in. That's the difference in the organizations. We just got through mentioning. Here's the difference just in personnel. You have a guy in Jordan Mailata who's a centerpiece at left tackle. And you have Jalen Carter on the other side of the ball. Here's who the Cowboys have. Mozzie Smith and the kid Guyton from Oklahoma. There's the misses. There is clearly the issue in what we're talking about, the differences in between the organizations. Here's Twiz here. Dallas hasn't drafted a first-round quarterback since Aikman. Sherrock and Dak put up numbers, but they fold under pressure. Hey, Twiz, think about the last two quarterbacks that they've had in the building. Haven't they looked the same? Romo and Dak, they look the same, right? I mean, they look the same. Here's Brandon. Cowboys going full rebuild. We can laugh now, but we're finally making a change. I think that's the key to this too. The Cowboys have to be finally all in. You know, when Jerry says that the Cowboys are all in, they've got to determine, are you all in on free agency or are you all in on a rebuild? You can't hang around the middle, in my opinion. You just can't hang around the middle. I agree with Sue here. I think they're coming to the conclusion. I agree 1,000%. You know, I'm going to, before I get John Morgan on, let me tell you what makes Morgan & Morgan so good. You know what John does? He hires people. You know, JFK Jr. worked at one time at Morgan & Morgan. I happen to know a guy who trained him, Pete Koch, and he's a friend of mine. And you know what John does? John gets people, puts them in positions to succeed and lets them do their jobs. The difference between the Dallas Cowboys and the Philadelphia Eagles is simple. It's called delegating. 2 days ago, we had Jimmy on. You know what Jimmy did? Jimmy hired the greatest assistant coaches he could possibly have. He wanted to hire guys who could take his job. He wanted talent around him. The more talent you have around you, the better chances of success. Thinking you can do it all by yourself, that's not how you build a winning organization. With that said, I mean, if you go on his Twitter, They're some of the best takes. Some of you guys, last time that were on, across all of our platforms, by the way, Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, all of it, huge response when John was on. You guys loved what he said about the dual threat quarterback and why it's so instrumental today. All that being said, let's bring on our friend John Morgan now. From Morgan & Morgan, by the way, him and Ultima have built the most powerful injury law firm in the country. We're proud to have him here, part of the program, and part of my life is our friend John Morgan. How you doing, John?
I'm good. I'm calling you from Maui, Hawaii.
John, what made you say that? Because it resonated so much. I had even Jimmy make a comment on your take about the dual threat quarterback. Why do you think that again, too, on February 9th, we saw it play out with Jalen Hurts. You said that you're going to see more of that in the NFL instead of the old school drop back. Why do you think that's going to be the new wave quarterback in today's NFL compared to what it was, say, 20 years ago?
It's a whole new dimension. It's like an offense that they never thought of. It's like, in the old days, all you had to basketball players doing a set shot. Well, now you got players who can dunk. And when you get players who can dunk, that's a whole new offense. And these guys, look at the contract that the guy at Buffalo just got. He's that guy. He is that guy. And when you got a quarterback who can be a halfback and a quarterback, you just got two for the price of one. What do we like the best? BOGO. Buy one, get one free. It's called QB BOGO. Halfback, quarterback. All for one.
John, do you think that mentality has changed with the younger style coaches where back in the day, John, not to go race or anything or political and politics and all, but do you think that there was a stereotype on that type of player back in the day that player wasn't able to translate his game from the college game to the pro game for whatever reason it was, and that more today, they're more receptive? Because if you look at the highest paid quarterbacks in the game today, majority of them are all the black quarterbacks. Do you think that stereotype has also changed the position?
Well, look, of course it is. Remember when Doug Williams was coming into the league? Everybody's like, holy cow, a black quarterback. Is he going to be smart enough to do it? Yeah, he was. And yeah, they are. And look, this problem is still the same with coaching. If I could have one coach be my coach, it's Mike Tomlin. If I could just have one coach, and if it wasn't him, it might be Tony Dungy. There's still an old boy network owning the NFL. That's still in there. And that's why you don't have many Mike Tomlins. But look what happens when, Dion becomes a coach. All of a sudden, there you have it. And I predict that your friend Michael Vick will be a D1 before it's all over.
I'm going to make another comment to you here. Tony Dungy said this the other day.
I saw him on your show.
John Gruden, I asked him, do you think John Gruden should get an opportunity to coach again? And he said, look, people all make mistakes in life. I know, John, a lot of people are going to hold what he said. I love what the Buccaneers are doing. They're putting him back in the Ring of Honor. John, do you think a guy like John Gruden, who has been endorsed by Eric Allen, Warren Sapp, all players that played for him, do you think he deserves another opportunity to coach again in the NFL?
Yes, and John Gruden was set up. He was set up. That was all done to handle John Gruden. It was confidential. Yeah, look, people say things they shouldn't say. It's wrong. If all of us are going to be held to that standard, none of us can have a job. None of us can have a job. Let he who is perfect throw the first stone. Remember that one? Look, John Gruden is a good guy. The players love him. He's a great coach. He got screwed by Daniel Snyder.
Absolutely, he did. John, I'm noticing some things going on now. I read your Twitter page a lot, and I go over there and I saw Kyle Busch. You get so deep into all sports now. I saw that looks so awesome. You're in NASCAR, you're in UFC, you're here, you're all over the landscape. Why is sports so important to how you brand your company, and why have you run your company kind of like a sports team, and how you see Morgan and Morgan? I mean, you're everywhere, John. Like the rumor you used to tell me, or the saying you used to tell me, I don't need you because I'm everywhere. And I mean, that's one of the most famous Morgan and Morgan lines of all time. But how come sports is so important to you?
You'll understand this. We live in a day where there is cord cutting. TV is dying. Cord cutting, DVR, social media, streaming. It's getting harder and harder, but guess where the audience still is? Live sports, talk radio. You see my name at the bottom of this?
Yes, sir.
Live. People, they're not taping this. This is live, by and large. I'm sure people tape it and come back. But live sports is where it's at. And so I'm the sponsor for the Yankees, the Red Sox. I mean, you go through America, the Heat, and then I get to take that logo and put that button on my billboards. People, oh, he's with the Yankees? Okay. You kind of get that going. And you get to use, like with Kyle Busch, I'm building buses now with Kyle's race car on the side. And yesterday, Kyle was doing commercials that we're getting ready to roll with Kyle Busch, driving a Morgan and Morgan bus. And Rowdy Busch is one of the most beloved figures in the history of NASCAR. And if Rowdy Busch is with you, guess what? I'm with you. If the New York Yankees are, if you're good enough for the New York Yankees, you're good enough for me. And for God's sake, if Dan Sileo endorses you, it can't be wrong.
That's my friend so much. John, you spent $250 million a year in advertising, and north of that, hey, I got to tell you, I'm going to tell you guys a story behind the scene here. This is back when John was poor and he was only making what Shaq made. Okay. he told Shaq, I think, was making $28 million at the time. So it's now north of that number of $250,000 you spend in advertising a year.
We spent $350 in 2024. But remember, we're in California, we're in Philly, Boston, New York, Florida, all the South. St. Louis, Detroit. We just opened in Detroit. So it's a big number, but it's a lot. It's a big country.
Absolutely, John. I mean, again, too, the NIL. I want to ask you about NIL. I saw you post something on NIL, and you said that this is going to be the undoing of college sports. Why?
Okay, it already is, because it's hard to feel loyalty to people who are not loyal to you. And by the way, I don't blame them. These are poor kids from poor families, and the NCAA screwed them for so many years, so hard, so long, that the NCAA did this to themselves. But what it's done for guys like me, I'm watching a game. I used to know what the players look like underneath the helmets. I couldn't identify them in a lineup. Now it's like watching Nintendo, and it's like D. And then yesterday you see the portal. People are already in the portal, and the tournament's not over. And so that loyalty factor. But what I said is this: you cannot out-coach recruiting. That's why Saban's out. In the old days, Saban would walk into a kid's living room, and it'd be like, Jesus Christ walking in.
That's right.
I mean, if Nick Saban or Bear Bryant walked into your house in Alabama, the Pope can come later. Okay, let's have these guys. But now in Alabama, it's $50 million to stay competitive. It's all about checks now. That's why I said in my tweet, what I would do, Dan, if I was an athletic director at Morgan & Morgan, I get no money unless I win. I'd go get me a young, hungry coach that's going to work 24 hours a day and say, listen, I'm going to make you the head coach of Cincinnati. Not a great program, not a bad program. And what I'm going to do is every win you get, I'm going to give you X amount. And you're going to get more every time you win. You're going to get a bigger. If you win the tournament, if you win the conference, you're going to get a bonus. If you win the whole thing, and if you win the whole thing, I'm going to give you $25 million. And guess what, Dan? They would be lined up. You're going, well, who would take that day? Now, I'm going to give you a bad example. I'm old enough to know this. Remember back in the day where Notre Dame hired Gary Moeller, the high school coach? Yeah. That didn't work. That didn't work out. But there are some high school coaches out there right now that I guarantee you they're
especially
working
in Florida. Especially in Florida.
Hey, my boy John Brantley.
Yep.
My guy John Brantley. I guarantee you give John Brantley the Gators and $50 million in NIL and pay him by the win, you'll save money. And don't give him a long-term contract. All this buying, Billy Napier, look, he saved his, but he come from wherever, Louisiana Lafayette. It's like a Canadian football team. I don't even know. It's like, is it 11 man or 8 man? Lafayette. I don't know what I thought the fishermen down there, but he comes in, he gets this huge contract that they almost had to buy out. He saved himself, thank God for him. But there are so many people that would work for peanuts and really work hard for a lot of peanuts. And the athletic director who takes that bold move, listen, you know how many people are coaching Pop Warner for free?
Yeah.
I mean, and they're spending 40, 50 hours. My brother-in-law, one of them.
Yeah.
There are people who would do this job and do it better. So I'm saying, look, let's have a new paradigm. Let's have the money for the NIL. Let's save the money on the coach. And if the coach comes in and wins, every time they win, they get more and more and more and more. You win the national championship, you get a $25 million bonus. How many people are lined up for that?
Oh, absolutely. You'd have all the big name coaches lined up for that.
Yes. Now, they're not now because the agents, they get their 4%, their 5%. They get along. Look, Jimbo Fisher, what a disaster.
Oh.
They give him once you give a guy a 10-year contract, it's over.
That's right.
It's over. Look, I love Calipari. He's my guy. John Calipari is my guy. We communicate all the time. Kentucky, they did what they did. When Cal won the other night against Patino, I wrote him. I said, Cal, this was the makeup for the Wisconsin loss. I was there when they got beat by Wisconsin. This win for Calipari. And you know how big it was? Look at his wife and daughter in the stands. They were crying like it was a national championship. Cal is the best. But Cal is a recruiter. When Calipari walked in a kid's living room, the Pope was there. So the NIL has changed it all, but I think with NIL changing, we should change. I also said another thing, Dan. I'm sick of all these boosters. Almost every booster I've ever met is the most unathletic person that I've ever met in my life. There's a booster in Florida that I know that he went to elementary school. Somebody told me this guy struck out in kickball. And he's sitting up in the stands going, fire Billy Napier. You struck out in kickball, dude. Who gives you? I never criticize anybody. You know why? Because I couldn't do it.
Yeah, right.
And I didn't do it. When I look at you, the what you all did, holy cow. You think I'm ever going to criticize you all and Jimmy Johnson? And these boosters are up, these guys who struck out in kickball are up there critiquing
kickball.
Kickball. Just envision the 3 rolls and maybe a foul or 2, and then you finally just whiff. And those are the people. Look at boosters. Look at who they are. They're rich oil men who are nothing but jock sniffers, who all of a sudden get to walk around and be on the sidelines with the great athletes. And the athletes are laughing at them. They're laughing at them. I'm sorry to boosters.
Hey, kickball. I love it.
Yeah.
John, do me a favor. Tell me, I said this, folks. I want everyone to know. You know what guys like John Morgan are? You don't want the money. You want the blueprint of how we got there. And you got a book now, John. You can't teach vision. Tell me what this means, because you and I had a conversation before, and we sat back on your porch there, and you told me, this is how I saw this. This is how I see things. I mean, you're looking down the line. Are some of the things, the stories is this going to reflect on how you got from point A to point Z and what this is about?
I've got 2 books. One I wrote called You Can't Teach Hungry. It's on Amazon. The second one I wrote was called You Can't Teach Vision. And I'll tell you the short story. You hear people say, Steve Jobs is a visionary. Bill Gates is a visionary. Mark Cuban is a visionary. And I love Cuban, as do you. They are visionaries. But there are a lot of visionaries that don't ever see the vision through. Once upon a time, Dan, I used to go to church. After church, I'd go to the Denny's, the crayons. My kids would color with crayons. The crayons would roll on the floor. I'd get on the floor. I'd try to pick them up. I said to my wife, why can't they invent crayons that don't roll? One day I go into the Denny's, and they got crayons that were triangles.
Right.
And I go, that's my idea. they stole my idea. Ultimately, you remember? No. I was a visionary, but I wasn't a vision maker. We all got great ideas. We've all got, the Peel Pocket Fisherman. That was my idea. The Vegemite, George Foreman Grill. No. There are visionaries, and there's millions of them, but there's a very few vision makers. And along the way, these vision makers got to fight off vision blockers. Don't do it. You're not going to make it. It's too risky. And you know who the number 1 vision blocker is? You. Why was Jerry Rice so great? Because he had a vision that he made come true. In the summertime, Jerry Rice ran up hills of sand, just walking in hills of sand. Jerry Rice ran up hills of sand. When you see Jerry Rice's films, the 49ers, that didn't just happen. He made it happen because he had a vision to be the greatest wide receiver ever. But it didn't just happen. He had to make it happen. And
John,
when people tell him, let's go drink a beer, he said, no, I got to go run the hill.
John, is that about just being persistent on things? And if you have conviction on things, sticking to that conviction.
Believing in yourself, believing in your vision, putting the team together to execute your vision, to have the guts to do it. And look, there's a lot of pitfalls along the way. There's a lot of vision blockers along the way. And sometimes, Dan, we fail. And when we fail, we don't realize that's the greatest lesson we ever get, because now we've got all these mistakes, but we don't ever go out and try again a lot of times because we're so scarred by the failure. But failure is, I also write about, failure can be your greatest friend. Think of the advantages of doing something again after you've already learned what you did wrong. So that's what You Can't Teach Vision's all about.
John, what do you think your greatest asset is when you're talking this way and you're talking and writing in a book like this, and you probably self-reflect for you? And again, I want to tell people, this man was poor. This man wasn't handed anything. I've seen the pictures from Kentucky. I know your story, and nobody handed this man anything. Okay. There had to have been something inside, John, that you thought was your greatest asset to put you in the position you are now. Can you share that? What you think?
What I think it was, I believe, Dan, I've got a final book I've written out here in Hawaii. It's going to be published this summer called Life is Luck, The Paper Boy. It goes like this. I was a paper boy. I had that genetic seed inside of me to be a paper boy. Being a paper boy, for all you people listening, that's a hard job. That's every day. That's rain, sleet, snow, 24/7. You don't go on vacation. I was a paper boy. I was born with that genetic seed to be an entrepreneur. Warren Buffett was a paper boy. Oprah Winfrey was a paper girl. You start asking people, start asking people that you meet are successful. Say, hey, can I ask you a question? Were you a paper boy? You're going to be surprised how many were. I think my greatest asset was luck. I think I've had 1,000 left turns, right turns, backups, U-turns, and somehow I ended up here. But I also believe that my greatest asset of all that I had was I was born with that genetic seed to be an entrepreneur. But my greatest asset is this. I'm not really smart. I'm definitely not book smart, but I'm smart. And I'm smart enough to know what I don't know. And I'm smart enough to go get people who are smarter than me, who can do what I do. Do what I need to do. I read a book by Rockefeller one time, big book called Titan. I only underlined one thing. They said, Mr. Rockefeller, how'd you build this oil company? You're not a scientist. You're not a geologist. You're a bookkeeper. How did you build Standard Oil? You're not a scientist. You know what he said? This is all I underlined. I hire scientists. He knew what he didn't know. The most dangerous person, and you know this from sports, Dan, the most dangerous person is the person who thinks they know and don't. The most dangerous person we can ever meet in our life is that person who thinks they're smart and they're dumber than you know what.
John, speaking of that, John, I saw a tweet where you went, the Luka deal will go down as one of the worst deals in the history of sports. Why?
Ever. Well, first of all, Anthony Davis has got the same legs that Sam Bowie had.
Oh, Jesus.
Listen, when you look at Sam, I'm a Kentucky guy, so I know Kentucky centers and big guys. They got those giraffe legs. They got those Embiid legs. Since we're in Philly, he ain't going to make it next year. He's done. I got bad news for Philly. Those legs, those giraffe legs, ain't going to happen. Ain't gonna happen. You need thick donkey legs.
Oh,
you see those donkey legs? All right. Hitting 3-pointers. Listen, here's what I want to do. If I was Adam Silver, I'd make a new rule. 4-pointers from beyond half. They can make it at half court now. You see this? Tell your wrestlers, go to this thing with Steph Curry. He threw a ball from the other
I saw that. He threw it from the hallway.
The hallway.
He threw it in. I couldn't believe that.
And he threw it in. Another thing for everybody to watch Bill Burr go off on Stephen A. Smith. Stephen A. Smith does this thing where he's boxing.
Yeah.
And Bill Burr goes, what does he think he's doing? How does this guy? And the guy goes, what does Stephen A. Smith? He goes, Bill Burr goes, he thinks it looks good. Tell your people, Google Bill Burr, Stephen A. Smith is boxing. What you should not, I should never shoot a basket and criticize anybody. You cannot be out there, John Morgan, boxing and criticizing boxers or LeBron James or Bronny James. You don't box. But I think that Dante could be the greatest player, one of the top 5 of all time. This guy shoots threes from the half court line. This guy's big and strong and sturdy. You know, when I see Anthony Davis come in, I just keep thinking of Sam Bowie, who Portland picked over Michael Jordan.
Right.
Those legs. It's those legs. Even the guy, I hate to say it, but even the guy down in San Antonio.
Yeah.
He's got those giraffe legs. Those giraffe legs are not sturdy. I mean, when Juju loses her ACL, you know the big giraffes are going to have trouble. So it's so bad. And I'll tell you, the night it happened, I wrote Cuban. I said, what do you think? He wrote back, I'm not part of this anymore. I'm not part of that anymore.
He would never have done that.
I knew what it meant. I knew what he meant, which was WTF. And later he's come up. I guarantee you, if we put truth serum into cubes and said, hey, what do you think? It'd be like, it's worse than the Babe Ruth trade. Look, we don't even know who Babe Ruth was traded for. I don't know. And by the way, and you're supposed to know, and by the way, you got a PhD in this. You got a PhD in sport. But by the way, Babe Ruth it turned out to be
he was a pitcher. He was
a pitcher.
He wouldn't have hit her.
He wasn't a hitter. This one guy's 28, went to the finals. One guy's 33 with giraffe legs and barely can walk. When you watch him walk, they threw their future away. I guarantee you this, that GM, that's his last job in the NBA, unless the Lakers GM hires him to be his assistant because he screwed him.
Hey, John, just to tell you, so to get people up to date here, Babe Ruth was traded because the owner of the Red Sox lost $120,000 because he was a guy in the off-Broadway, and he got bankrupt, and he traded him on my birthday, January 3rd, to the New York Yankees for $120,000 back in the day. That's why he was traded to the New York Yankees.
And he was a pitcher.
And he was a pitcher.
Hey, look, think about this. Bill Russell got to the Celtics because the Rochester Royals needed money for the ice capades or something.
That's right.
And all of a sudden, Bill Russell gets to go to the Celtics so that the Rochester Royals, or whatever their name was, could get money for the ice capades. That's how Bill Russell built Boston.
That's right. John, you're going to have to help me with this last thing here. So did I see Dan at Michigan? Is Dan doing like public speaking up at Michigan or something? Did I see Dan Morgan up there?
Well, Dan Morgan we just opened up in Detroit, and part of our strategy is live sports, NIL. And so Dan was up there doing some pictures for billboards and stuff like that. As I'm getting older, and I know I still look like $1 million, but I'm kind of transitioning my kids to me, and Dan loves it. You know, you've had Thanksgiving with Dan.
Love him.
And he's getting married here in Maui in November.
Wow.
November. He's coming out with his girl this week to lock down all the sites. But so Dan was in Michigan doing film with the Michigan Wolverines. We just opened up in Detroit. We're kicking ass. And so Dan was up there doing that. He's coming out to Hawaii, but I hear he's going to stop in. Is there a game in San Francisco this week?
Yes.
He's going to stop in San Francisco on the way out.
Yeah, Sweet 16. Absolutely. Hey, before you get you out of here, John, who do you like in the finals of the NCAA tournament? Who do you like to win it now that St. John's been bounced? Who do you like?
Well, look, I'm torn. I can't lose. Calipari is one of my best buddies in the world. I grew up in Lexington, Kentucky. I cried myself to sleep the night Kentucky lost to Texas Western in 1966. And I went to the University of Florida. I can't lose.
By the way, I thought SEC, John, meant football. I didn't know 14 teams were going to qualify. And there's your nil. 14 teams qualified. They're running the ACC out of business.
ACC is gone. I mean, all ACC is one thing, DUKE. That's it.
That is right. John, thank you for all of your support.
Thank
you for being my friend. Thank you again. Tell Ultima hi. Tell the kids hi. Thank you so much, my friend.
And congratulations on all your success in your program. The reason Jimmy Johnson comes on, the reason George Foreman comes on, the reason Mark Cuban comes on, the reason Tony Dungy comes on is because Dan Sileo has been a great friend to all of us, and we'll never let you down.
God forbid, man. Thank you so much, John. Thank you, my friend. Have a good one, brother. We'll talk to you real soon.
Go Phillies.
You got it, man. That is my friend, John Morgan, man. I love that man. His family, if you ever met him, you would really know what kind of guy that guy is. Seriously, he came from dirt poor nothing. And now he's worth $2 billion. And he's giving you guys free advice on how to build your business and how to build your life. I don't think you can get that. So wait, you get Jimmy Johnson, you get Tony Dungy, you got John Morgan giving you a symposium here and how that goes. So we really appreciate John very much. And as you can tell, we're very tight, and we are. And we're tight with you. Thank you so much. John now comes on here because of you guys. Hit the like button on the way out the door. Thank you again. Big Z, Joe, thank you. 2 to 6 tomorrow, and we'll see you on the flip side.